Chapter 344. There was a whooshing sound. The sky piercer circled in the air, making a sound that sounded like the wailing of ghosts. A visible vortex formed in the air and then disappeared. Xiangcheng's aura rose sharply. His eyes were full of confidence. He said in a deep voice, "Captain Zhua, please." One end of the sky piercer pointed to the sky and the other to the ground. It was shining with a cold light and looked extremely heavy. It was a rare super heavy weapon in this competition. Zhua Xiaoduo's face became more and more serious. Countless people who were paying attention to this battle felt their hearts rise to their throats. Almost everyone had a good impression of Zhua Xiaoduo. However, judging from the current situation, Zhua Xiaoduo was obviously on guard against him. Zhua Xiaoduo was good at all kinds of tricks, but against this vice-captain, he really didn't have any advantage. All of them were restrained by his opponent. One must know that his opponent's sky piercer weighed 500 to 600 kilograms. For such a heavy weapon, wouldn't it be just right for Zhua Xiaoduo to restrain him? Everyone was a little worried. Zhua Xiaoduo was in trouble. Looking at Zhua Xiaoduo's face, which was also extremely serious, it was obvious that he also realized that something was wrong. Zhua Xiaoduo's face darkened. He slowly rolled up his trousers and tightly buttoned his sleeves. Then he tightened his belt, took out a dozen small jade gourds from his pocket, and threw them on the ground. His face became even more gloomy. Everyone could see that. He must have felt that he was not confident. Since the hidden weapons were destined to be useless, it would be a burden to keep them in his pocket. It was better to throw them away as soon as possible. Only a few high martial arts teachers sighed and frowned. You believed him just because he said so? You threw away your hidden weapons just like that. You have the mentality of a coward before the battle. It was a big mistake. Please. Zhua Xiaoduo stretched out his hand. As soon as he spoke, the sound of wind and thunder suddenly came from the opposite side. The sky piercer on the opposite side turned into a silver mountain of halberds, whistling toward him. Countless vortexes formed one after another in the air. The magnificent halberd mountain formed by the sky piercer was mixed with flickering cold light as it rapidly attacked. Zhua Xiaoduo reacted with lightning speed and rapidly retreated. Between the flickering starlight, brilliant sparks scuttled about and blossomed one after another in the air. It was extremely magnificent. However, as Zhua Xiaoduo retreated, the heavenly halberd's momentum increased by another notch. The overlord halberd's aura grew even stronger. Like a silver whirlwind, it chased after the twinkling starlight, rushing all the way. Zhua Xiaoduo let out a long howl and soared into the sky. However, the overlord halberd did not stop. It transformed into a silver dragon and chased after him relentlessly. Zhua Xiaoduo used the starry sky steps and dodged continuously in the air. However, when he realized that he couldn't dodge, he rushed towards the ground with a swoosh. Boom! Zhua Xiaoduo landed on the ground and immediately flew out while sticking close to the ground. He seemed to be at a disadvantage and could only escape. Seeing that his opponent was at a disadvantage, Xiangcheng controlled the sky piercer and rushed down at high speed. He also stuck close to the ground and chased after Zhua Xiaoduo, continuing to put pressure on him. However, the moment he landed, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his wrist. The heavenly halberd in his hand was unprecedentedly heavy, making it difficult for him to hold on. After he failed to hold on, he let out a roar. The heavenly halberd seemed to have lost its sense of direction and flew out of his hand. As it landed, the sky piercer flew towards the judges like a meteor chasing after the moon. Its target was Ding Xiulan. Ding Xiulan frowned. With a flick of her finger, she had already stopped the sky piercer in midair. She looked over with a puzzled expression. Of course, she didn't suspect that Xiangcheng was trying to assassinate her. With her cultivation level, even if she didn't flick her finger, the sky piercer wouldn't be able to break through her vital energy shield. She was just curious. Xiangcheng was obviously chasing after her, so why did he suddenly let go of the sky piercer? Looking back at the arena, Xiangcheng's sky piercer had left his hand. However, his momentum didn't slow down. The moment he landed, he jumped up as if he had been electrocuted. He screamed, "Despicable!" On the opposite side, Zhua Xiaoduo stepped on the starlight again and rushed back at a speed much faster than before. He closed in on Xiangcheng at a mysterious angle and aimed one of his legs at the jumping Xiangcheng. This kick came without a trace, but it was powerful and carried with it the sound of the wind breaking through the air. Bang! The dragon's gate leg, which came and went like a ghost, kicked Xiangchong's crotch once again. It really happened in an instant. Ouch! Xiangchong let out a shrill scream. His eyes bulged and his body curled up like a cooked prawn. His face revealed an expression of extreme pain. His 2 hands tightly covered his crotch. The muscles on his face spasmed and twisted. The starlight flashed again. Zuo stood firmly in front of Xiangchong again. He was still as handsome and elegant as before. He walked with a majestic gait and a domineering aura. He shouted, "You're wrong. Actually, my fist is invincible." Before he finished speaking, he had already lowered his waist and sat in a horse stance. He punched straight at Xiangchong's stomach. Xiangchong's 2 feet left the ground and flew back. The moment he landed, he smashed right into his own chair. With such a huge force, the chair was smashed into pieces and his butt landed on the ground. Ouch! Xiangchong covered his crotch and continued to roll on the ground. His eyes were bulging. On the spectator stand, a furious voice said, "This bastard! I have to." He slapped the armrest and was about to fly out. However, he was pulled back by the person beside him. Master, calm down, calm down. Calm down. This is the venue of the competition. You must calm down, calm down." The figure shrouded in a cloak was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He couldn't even speak clearly. "This bastard. This bastard. This. I'm so angry, so angry. Now let's not talk about what will happen to him. The Kunlun Taoist sect will definitely be famous. Their 10,000 years of reputation has been destroyed by him. This bastard." After this battle, Zuo became the second most famous legendary character after Li Chenglong. He became famous in one fell swoop, and his name spread across half the sky. Fuck! That's the Galaxy Steps and Dragon Gate kick? Too awesome. My captain's was so strong. Ha ha ha. This kick really made me cover my crotch while watching the live broadcast. Fuck, that's really a stroke of genius. Awesome class. The person above feels the same way. Me too, me too. I'm so happy that I've lost everything. Me too, me too. At that moment I really felt a chill on my back. I immediately covered my crotch. First thing. My mother asked me why I was kneeling and covering my crotch while watching the live broadcast. Me too, covering my crotch. Then a large group of straight men started to comment, me too, me too. There were a few thousand comments. Someone started to analyze, did you see that? During the previous battle we had analyzed it. The key to this battle is still the combination of Dragon Gate Kick and Galaxy Steps. These 2 sets of martial arts originally belonged to the Kunlun sect. To be honest, their lethality isn't that great. Naturally, they weren't taken seriously in the past. But from now on I want to tell everyone, pay attention. The true usage of these 2 sets of martial arts from the Kunlun sect has appeared. This is definitely a first-class secret technique. That is, the combination of Galaxy Steps and Dragon Gate Kick. The target is the crotch. Maybe it shouldn't be called Dragon Gate Kick anymore. It should be called Crotch Kick. Yes, Galaxy Steps and Crotch Kick. Invincible. It's too sharp. Everyone, we are already studying it now. Don't stop me. I'm going to the Kunlun sect to learn. I don't want to learn anything else, just this step and this kick. I'm going too. Wait for me. Too many onlookers couldn't understand this battle. The live broadcast only had a rough idea. But most of the high martial arts teachers present could all see that the key to this battle was. Yes, it wasn't the key to the crotch. When they first met, Xiangchong was the main attacker. He attacked aggressively and his momentum was terrifying. Zuo was the main defender. He used his extreme speed to increase the distance between them. Xiangchong chased after him relentlessly. Zuo turned and rushed into the sky. Xiangchong also chased after him. Zuo came down again. The moment he came down again, the battle ended. Brilliant! The referee from the Hidden Dragon High School slapped the table and praised. Even a veteran who has been in the Jianghu for decades might not have this kind of battle awareness. Instead of saying that it's battle awareness, it's more accurate to say that it's an exquisite layout. When he threw away the hidden weapons at the beginning and scattered them on the ground, It looked like he was showing weakness. In fact, he had other plans. The hidden weapons only scattered on the ground, but they were still in the arena. In other words, this was Wuxiao's earliest move. It was also this move that caused Xiang Chong to be completely unprepared, sowing the seeds of defeat. If Xiang Chong had kept his feet on the ground and attacked steadily, Wuxiao's move would have been pointless. However, because Wuxiao showed weakness at the beginning of the battle and blindly dodged with his movement, the Overlord Halberd, who emphasized momentum the most, took the opportunity to move and gradually accumulate his momentum. However, because of this continuous pressure, when Wuxiao rushed into the sky, Xiang Chong could only chase after him and move away from the ground. Then came the crucial moment. As Xiang Chong leaped into the air to chase after him, his feet were bound to leave the ground. The only place that Xiang Chong's starlight silk clothes could not protect was the soles of his feet. After that, Wuxiao landed. He could have landed lightly and continued to wander around, but the moment he landed, he exerted a great force and shook the ground. The true meaning of this was to drive the hidden weapons scattered on the ground. For hidden weapons attack Xiang Chong from a strange angle, at least from an angle that Wuxiao couldn't launch from. Two of the hidden weapons hit the soles of Xiang Chong's feet. Wuxiao used a trick to drive the 4 hidden weapons. In fact, he couldn't exert much power, but what he needed was the right timing. Xiang Chong's soles were attacked. Because he was in mid-air, he was suddenly disturbed. Naturally, he had to stabilize himself first and withdraw the great force he poured into the sky piercer. However, he was in the process of attacking fiercely, so it was difficult for him to withdraw it. And this sudden withdrawal inevitably revealed a flaw. At this moment, the other 2 hidden weapons hit the flaw exposed by Xiang Chong's sleeves. The web between the thumb and the index finger. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Chapter 345. That's why the sky piercer flew out of his hand. At this time, as the weapon flew out of his hand, Xiang Chong's first reaction was to follow it. His state of mind was even more flustered. How could he have the time to pay attention to the attack on his feet? As a result, the other 2 hidden weapons, which originally didn't have much power, displayed their greatest effect. They entered the flesh from the soles of his feet, injuring his meridians. Do you think Xiang Chong immediately jumped up the moment he landed? Did he want to jump? No, it was simply an instinctive reaction from the pain. On the other hand, Wuxiao's starry sky steps and dragon gate leg had already turned around. He had anticipated the enemy's movements and attacked with certainty. With a kick to the crotch, he completely crippled all of his combat strength. As for the punch after that, it was actually superfluous. There was no real need for it, because at that time victory and defeat were already clear. There was no need for any more movements. After the Hidden Dragon High School teacher's explanation, everyone who didn't understand suddenly felt enlightened, because this battle was really too fast. Everyone only saw one chasing and one escaping. They rushed up to the sky and then came down. Then, inexplicably, the sky piercer attacked. It inexplicably ended. But at the same time, they also looked at this captain of Phoenix City's No. 2 high school in a new light. This Wuxiao's plan was so exquisite. Unexpectedly, every step he took was so unexpected. Yet it was so logical in his bones. He played with his opponent in the palm of his hand and was extremely happy. In this battle, Xiang Chong didn't lose at all. This Hidden Dragon High School teacher was full of praise. In a battle of martial arts, it's never about who has a higher cultivation base, or who has a stronger foundation who will definitely win. In this battle, there are still countless methods, countless openings, and countless traps that can be exploited. As long as they are used well and ingeniously naturally, the weak can defeat the strong and subdue the enemy to obtain victory. These children of Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School. To say something that everyone can understand, they've experienced too little society's vicious beatings. These words caused a thoughtful expression to appear on the faces of all the high school teachers. Too little society's vicious beatings. The future was really worrying. Should he suggest opening another class in the high martial arts school? Is this called being beaten up by society? From the looks of it, this Wuxiao could simply become a professor of this course. There were still many people discussing this on the internet. However, this time everyone was discussing battle tactics. You can do that? The hidden weapon that was thrown at the beginning was actually a trap. He said that there was no need for it. Fuck, if it were me, I would definitely fall for it. Facing an opponent who is an entire major realm higher than him, he dodged twice, rushed up into the air, and then rushed down. Then he won with a kick to the crotch. Why do I feel that it's so surreal? Child, you've experienced too little social abuse. Bah, you're the one who hasn't been beaten enough. Could it be that Swordsmanship has experienced more? But he won. Alright, this sentence really made people speechless. You don't care how many beatings he's been through. The reality now is that he's won. If he won, that would be his capital and glory. 3 battles, 2 wins and 1 loss. Swordsmanship was still standing on the field, unable to get down. Which one of you wants to come up? It's still me for this battle, and it's still me for the next one. Shda. The remaining 3 members of Hidden Dragon were all dumbfounded. Aren't you bullying us? You're the captain. Swordsmanship naturally had something to say. In the previous battles, we've always fought one person against one team. This time it's the same. However, Li Changming and Li Chenglong are too weak. One lost and the other was seriously injured. However, I'm still fine. Of course, I have to continue fighting. If your captain wakes up and wants to continue fighting, it's fine. It's okay to keep winning. We won't be unhappy even if you defeat all of us. After all, this is the rule. However, the problem is that your captain fainted while snoring, grinding his teeth and farting. There's really nothing we can do about it. Swordsmanship's tone was very regretful. These beautiful words immediately made the captain of Hidden Dragon, Shimen Da-Ching, who had just woken up, spit out a mouthful of blood and fainted again. The reality was like this. They could only endure and continue. However, the 2 youths who came up next after a round of battle, one in front and one in back, they hugged their crotches and were defeated. The internet was completely boiling. Crotch kicking again. Crotch kicking again. Too skilled. So cool. I want to learn. May I ask? Where is the Kunlun sect? Same question. I hope the Almighty can give me some pointers. I'm very grateful. This is a unique skill that can save one's life. I must learn it. I must learn it. I must learn it until I'm very familiar with it. I must learn it until I reach the peak of perfection. In the stands. Let's go. The slim figure who was tightly wrapped in the cloak was so angry that her face was ashen. She stood up and turned around to leave. She didn't even look back. She was really angered to death. Master, wait for me. Another figure chased after her. The battle of the top 8. Phoenix City's second high school won. Furthermore, they eliminated Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School, which had the highest chance of winning. A super dark horse. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that this year, no matter what, the champion would not be Hidden Dragon High School. Hidden Dragon High School had now completely lost the qualification to win the championship. The next step was the top 6. The competition had already ended. The leading teacher of Hidden Dragon High School anxiously led his team to Nanji City. Healing pod. He had to find the highest grade. Also, he had to find an expert to see if he could heal Shimen Da-Ching's soul. If it couldn't be healed, then it would be difficult to maintain the top 3. Although there was no difference in the benefits of being ranked 2nd to 9th, their reputation would be ruined. If they suddenly fell out of the top 3, then they would really be done for. This time, coming to the competition, I've really seen a ghost. On this day, the top 6 were decided. Phoenix City's 2nd high school, Water City's 1st high school, Yonglua's 1st high school, Fenghai's 3rd high school, Phoenix Tail's 1st high school, and Song Mountain's 1st high school. There was really no Hidden Dragon High School. Hidden Dragon High School, which had dominated the championship for many years, had a super big news this time. They actually didn't enter the top 6. This news made everyone's jaws drop, but after thinking about it carefully, they felt that it was reasonable. Hidden Dragon High School first encountered Water City 1st High School, and only won a Pyrrhic victory after all their members were severely injured. Then they encountered Garrison Store 1st High School, and were ruthlessly fought by the other party. They were still full of injured soldiers, and most of them were severely injured. Then they encountered Phoenix City's 2nd High School, and accidents happened again and again. First, the team leader encountered the successor of the Dream Divine technique, who had not appeared in the world for a long time. Although he was lucky enough to win the match, his soul was injured. Not only was he unable to continue the match, but he was also absent from the subsequent matches. Originally, the vice team leader, Xiang Chong, and his sister Xiang Bing, were both experts in the embryonic breathing realm. Moreover, they were talents in actual combat, so Hidden Dragon High School had considerable strength. But first, Xiang Bing was disfigured by a certain steel-like man from Phoenix City's second high school, and she was utterly defeated. Then Xiang Chong was crushed by Zhuxiaoduo's schemes, and his vital parts were kicked. He was defeated, especially when he was kicked in the crotch. In the next two matches, two of them were also defeated by Zhuxiaoduo in the same way, by kicking in the crotch. Zhuxiaoduo didn't kill him in this position. Although it wasn't fatal, it wasn't crippling, and it wouldn't cause internal injuries, but it was really painful and it really affected his performance. Moreover, after he recovered and didn't feel anything, he had to habitually walk for a long time. This also led to them encountering Shui City No. 1 Middle School, which they had already fought once. They were almost swept away, and all of them were defeated. Especially Xiang Bing, this valiant beauty, was beaten by Li Chenglong to the point that she was traumatized, and she didn't dare to go on stage. She was even afraid to go on stage, so how could she not be defeated? Hidden Dragon High School's dismal ending made countless high school teachers feel satisfied, but they also had mixed feelings and couldn't put their thoughts to words. It was probably because the words of the teacher from the Hidden Dragon High School were too reasonable. These students had too little experience of being beaten up by society. Many high school teachers with ideas were thinking about this sentence. It was indeed too little. They were too well protected. If they didn't encounter a similar experience, if they really went to the battlefield, or if they really went to the Jianghu, they would just stretch out their necks and be slaughtered. Those old foxes, those mortal enemies, which one of them would show mercy just because you were a genius? They would only kill with extreme pleasure. Vicious beating. It's imperative. The high school teachers all had such thoughts in their minds. Why do the old people always say that to suffer a loss is to gain an advantage? This sentence is a famous saying when it comes to martial artists. If you suffer a loss, as long as you don't die, you really gain a big advantage. Because you won't suffer the same loss again. And too many people will pay with their lives if they suffer such a loss. In the previous Dragon and Tiger Roll competition, everyone had fought according to the rules. They had brought out as much strength as they could. It was probably because everyone followed the rules and did things according to the rules, so they didn't feel that there was any problem. However, in this year's batch, the students of Phoenix City No. 2 High School, especially Zhuxiaoduo, suddenly made everyone feel that the previous way couldn't work. All of them were as pure as Bai Hua. In the future, they could only wait to suffer losses. Based on the principle of thinking for the students, everyone began to think seriously. The top 6 drew lots. Phoenix City No. 2 High School against Yangluo No. 1 High School. Water City No. 1 High School against Fenghai No. 3 High School. Phoenix Tail No. 1 High School against Songshan No. 1 High School. For Phoenix Tail No. 1 High School and Songshan No. 1 High School, such a draw result was almost equivalent to picking up a bargain. Originally, the highest record of these two teams was only in the top 8. Moreover, it was not stable. Often they would be in the top 8 this year and be kicked out of the top 10 next year. But this time it was too smooth. Not only did they enter the top 6 in one go, but they also had the possibility of going further. It was really a big pie that fell from the sky. Every time they drew lots, it was almost a battle between the strong, and their combat strength was basically exhausted. This time the top 6 drew lots again. Naturally, they didn't know Zhu's ability. They only felt that they were too lucky. Perhaps they could win the championship. In this round of the top 6, the main purpose was to determine the top 4. The winners of the 3 groups would directly enter the top 4. The losers would draw lots again. One would have a bye, 2 would fight, and the winner would fight with the one who had a bye. And the final winner would obtain the last seat in the top 4. After that, the top 4 matches would be simple. The winners would fight for the first and second place, and the losers would fight for the third place. In other words, this year's Longhu List competition was nearing its end. That afternoon, Phoenix City No. 2 High School and Yangluo No. 1 High School were fighting. And Luoyang No. 1 High School had Zhuoxiao Duo, who had a high opinion of the tall girl from the beginning to the end. Chapter 346. The others were at most at the same level as Li Chenglong and the others. Only this girl was far beyond her peers. The feeling she gave to Zhuoxiao Duo could almost be described as sharp. Zhuoxiao Duo could be sure that if she didn't count himself, this girl had the amazing combat power to kill Li Chenglong and the others in one breath. However, according to the information he had gathered beforehand, not only was this girl not the captain, she wasn't even the vice-captain. It could be said that she was very low-key. This match was different from the match against Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School. Long Yuxing fought the first match until he was exhausted and finally won with difficulty. However, he didn't have the strength to fight the second match, so he had to withdraw. Wan Lixio took over the baton and fought the second match. The opponent was also a girl, and it was an evenly matched battle. The two were beaten until they couldn't even get up. In the end, the match ended in a draw. The two girls left the stage, vomiting blood as they were supported back. In the third match, Li Chenglong fought the opponent until the sky turned dark. Finally, he won with difficulty. It was still his ability to resist, take a beating. His injuries seemed to be lighter than his opponent's. He won by a fluke, really by a fluke. So far there were 2 wins and 1 draw. Zhuoxiao Duo simply walked up and prepared to fight the fourth match. He was sure that the tall girl of the opponent would have to fight no matter what. Otherwise, if Yangluo No. 1 High School lost another match, it would be the end. Zhuoxiao's guess was not wrong. The girl's face was cold. She stepped forward with her 2 long legs. Lan Bingrui. These 3 cold words were not polite at all. Zhuoxiao Duo. Zhuoxiao Duo also didn't show any expression. In a sense, Zhuoxiao Duo was also a steely straight man, not inferior to Li Chenglong's steely straight man. You think you're so good just because you're beautiful? As long as I don't owe you money, I won't hold back at all. Besides, don't you think you're too tall? Zhuoxiao Duo was 1.89 meters tall. This height was already considered tall among men, and this girl was at least 1.84 meters tall. Just by standing there, she seemed to be taller than Zhuoxiao Duo. Just this height alone was quite unfriendly. Please. Please. Both of them got into their stances at the same time. Zhuoxiao Duo didn't hesitate. He fully used the star steps and dragon's gate leg, but then he laughed bitterly. Because the movements used starry feet, star plucking stars, and dragon's leg. Fuck, they're from the same source. Zhuoxiao Duo was stunned. This girl was also a descendant of the Kunlun sect? But seeing someone of the same origin as him, how could he be so cold? The others were also taken aback for a moment, and then they revealed expressions full of interest. Now that the 2 successors of the Kunlun Taoist sect had met each other, this battle was definitely going to be interesting. Bang! 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 Zhuoxiao Duo and Lan Bingrui exchanged 3 blows and kicked each other 3 times. Both of them acted as if nothing had happened and retreated. The probing had been completed. Zhuoxiao Duo and Lan Bingrui's faces became serious. They knew each other best. Through the exchange just now, Zhuoxiao Duo had already determined that the girl in front of him was an exceptional genius. Moreover, she was a genius who had suppressed her vital essence's agitation 7 or 8 times when a martial arts master was breaking through to the innate realm. In other words, she had the suppression of Long Yuxing, Wan Lixio, and the others. Moreover, she was in the intermediate stage of the embryonic breathing realm, which was close to the pinnacle of cultivation. That's pretty awesome. Zhuoxiao Duo felt a faint pain in his calf after the collision. He immediately grimaced. However, he didn't know that although Lan Bingrui's expression was still cold, she was so shocked that she almost cried out in surprise. In Yangluo No. 1 High School, she was a great genius who dominated the entire city. Looking at the past few hundred years, there was no one in Yangluo City who could achieve what she had. In this Dragon and Tiger List tournament, there was no student who could catch her eye, including the team leader of No. 1 High School of Hidden Dragon, Shimendaqing, whose cultivation had reached the high level of the embryonic breathing realm, and was half a step to the primordial elixir realm. If they really fought, she could definitely take him down within 50 moves. The rest were even more mediocre and couldn't reach the apex. This was Lan Bingrui's confidence. However, when she really faced Zhuo Duo through these few exchanges, she could acutely feel that this Zhuo Duo's foundation was actually more profound than hers. No, it should be far more profound than hers. This was because he was only at the innate realm now. He was obviously a realm lower than her, but he could still be on par with her in terms of strength. If this wasn't a huge difference in foundation, what else could it be? In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 30 moves. Both of them didn't use any weapons and only fought with their fists and feet. In close combat, there was another muffled bang. Both of their legs kicked each other firmly again, and they retreated at the same time again. However, as Zhuo Duo retreated this time, he threw out 3 small gourds which flew out like lightning. Lan Bingrui was in mid-air and had to bear the aftermath of the impact from both sides. She definitely couldn't dodge all of them. According to Zhuo Duo's estimation, she could only dodge 2 at most. No matter what, she would be hit by at least 1. However, Zhuo Duo was thinking too much. She didn't dodge at all, so all 3 hidden weapons hit her. However, when the hidden weapons hit Lan Bingrui's body, they were completely useless. Her snow-white clothes didn't even have any reaction, and the small gourds had already shattered. "Your clothes are really not bad," Zhuo Duo praised sincerely, but his heart was filled with helplessness. It seemed like hidden weapons really couldn't be used in this round. This wasn't a life-and-death battle. He couldn't possibly blind this girl, right? However, there was obviously something fishy about the clothes, and it was completely useless. Lan Bingrui said faintly, "Don't waste your time. Hidden weapons are useless against me. It's useless to hit my face or hit my hands anywhere. My galaxy clothes have an automatic defensive ability." "You're really rich." Zhuo Duo grinned. The galaxy clothes were said to be woven with a kind of strange metal, mixed with the galaxy cloud soul. This kind of clothes was not only impenetrable by weapons, water, and fire, but also could store true core force. If there was a sufficiently high-level expert who injected his true inner force into the clothes could theoretically absorb an unlimited amount of true inner force. And all the absorbed true inner force would be converted into defensive power. In this way, no matter what kind of sudden attack, the galaxy clothes could automatically sense the impact of the attack and protect the owner. It was truly a priceless treasure. Ordinary ancient martial arts families might not even have heard of it, let alone own it. It seemed that Lan Bingrui's family background was extraordinarily good. Zhuo Duo has met his match. Ding Xiulan's face was solemn. "I'm afraid this match is really going to be difficult." Ma Zhongxi also kept shaking his head. "This kid is really unlucky to have met this girl from the Lan family. This girl is not simple. She has been very low-key all the way and almost didn't fight. However, she also has a lot of gadgets on her. Zhuo Duo might not be able to defeat her." The teacher from Hidden Dragon Martial Arts High School said faintly, "In the end, he's just taking advantage of his family background. If Zhuo Duo had the same family background, he would definitely be more outstanding than this Lan girl." Everyone nodded silently. For ordinary people or geniuses in the ordinary sense, Lan Bingrui could easily crush them without using her family background. However, for geniuses of the same level, the addition of family background was enough to create a huge gap. Hidden weapons are destined to be useless. Palm techniques, leg techniques, and footwork are also known to the opponent. The chances of winning this match are slim. Ding Xiulan was a little worried. Zhuo Duo has made it this far. Even if he loses, it's not considered a loss. Ma Zhongxi said softly. On the spectator stand, the person in the cloak smiled gently and gritted his teeth. "Finally, someone can teach this little bastard a lesson. These few days I've been so angry that my stomach hurts." Another person said softly, "It's hard to say now. You don't know what kind of enemy Xiao Duo has faced and where his real combat power has gone." The person who spoke was Wu Xiaonian. She knew her brother's ability very well. If it wasn't for Zhuo Duo not wanting to expose himself, it would only be a matter of minutes to smash this girl into meat paste. "With this level of ability, you dare to be arrogant in front of my dog. Humph. Why are you so tall? Humph." However, she also knew that Zhuo Duo would definitely not expose himself in this kind of situation. Then, if they wanted to win, there was only one way left. "Teacher, it seems that you know the background of this girl?" Zhuo Xiaonian asked. She's the last disciple of my junior master. Mu Yanyan said softly. According to seniority, you have to call her junior master. Then why is she so useless? With this level of ability? Zhou Xiaonian was very disdainful. At this moment, Nian Mao's eyes were full of disdain. This sentence was a little heart-wrenching and a little speechless. However, thinking about it, Zhou Xiaonian was indeed qualified to say this. Looking at the practitioners of the same age, Zhou Xiaonian could really be said to be invincible in this world. Bang bang bang. In the field, the two of them moved like rabbits and swooped down like hawks. They continuously exchanged more than 200 moves, and the sound of vital qi colliding and exploding was constantly heard. Let's end this. Lan Bingrui floated back and pulled out a long sword with a clang. Like a stream of light, she held it in front of her chest. Zhou Xiaoduo, you're no match for me. Admit defeat. Zhou Xiaoduo was shocked and said, you actually used a weapon. Relying on a weapon to help in the battle, it's an unfair victory. Lan Bingrui said, in a martial arts battle of course I'll use everything. What's wrong with that? Zhou Xiaoduo was not convinced and said, in this case, I'll also use a weapon. My sword is also very powerful. Lan Bingrui frowned. So what if you use a weapon? It's not shameful to admit defeat when you're not as strong as others. Zhou Xiaoduo, why are you struggling? I asked you to admit defeat because my sword is too fierce and sharp. I'm afraid that I'll hurt you by accident. After all, we're all Taoists and you're a junior. It's not shameful for you to lose to me. Zhou Xiaoduo said with a smile, then why don't you admit defeat? It's not shameful for you to lose to me. Chapter 347. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed. In fact, what you said is exactly what I wanted to say. I just don't know whether you believe it or not. He made a grabbing motion in the air, and a sword appeared out of thin air with a cracking sound. The sword light was as clear as water and as thin as a cicada's wing. Since you're the one who made the first move, I won't hold back. Since we share the same origin, I'll definitely give you some face. Sword. 2 swords. And they were 2 peerless godly weapons shining here. All the referees, including Lan Bingrui's teacher in charge, were stunned. Everyone had the same thought. These 2 people are really cunning. Lan Bingrui had never used any weapon before. Coincidentally, Zhou Xiaoduo was the same. But now, the 2 people took out their swords one after another, and the swords they took out were both peerless godly weapons. How could people not think about the implication of this? Several referees shook their heads and smiled bitterly. Ding Xiulan's face changed and her mouth twitched. After being speechless for a long time, she murmured, the old scoundrel met the old scoundrel. Even I was wrong. Zhou Xiaoduo's family background is not simple. It must be very powerful. The other teachers shook their heads and smiled bitterly. You are not the only one. Didn't we all make a mistake? Who would have thought that the so-called Iron Fist young master would take out a hidden weapon as his trump card? After the hidden weapon, he said that his body movement and footwork were his trump cards. And now, he was forced to take out a sword. It was totally speechless. The sword light suddenly flashed, and the 2 people attacked at the same time. Their attacks were totally different from before. It was like 2 new people were performing sword skills. The audience behind the 2 of them felt that something was amiss. The audience behind Zhou Xiaoduo facing Lan Bingrui only felt that they were facing an extremely cold snow mountain. The snow was falling and it was bone-chilling. Countless mysterious ice shone in the sunlight, shining and dazzling. As for the audience behind Lan Bingrui facing Zhou Xiaoduo, they only felt a drizzle blowing against their faces. It was as if they were taking a stroll in the rain, full of warmth, gentleness, and comfort. It was indescribably comfortable. This kind of artistic conception was simply intoxicating. Although the snow and ice of Lan Bingrui were wild and the snow-capped mountains were high, they were melted little by little by Zhou Xiaoduo's misty rain. The process was slow, but it was very real and real. In this round of sword skill competition, Zhou Xiaoduo actually had the upper hand, and the signs of him having the upper hand were gradually becoming more and more obvious. This result shocked everyone who was watching the battle. What kind of freak is this child? Ding Xiulan was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth. Lan Bingrui was a little impatient. She tried 3 different sword techniques, but the sword in front of her was soft and light. Her sword technique was like the fine rain in spring. It was completely useless. It was as if there was no end to it, and it kept suppressing her sword technique. Lan Bingrui let out a long howl. She was finally enraged and shouted, "If that's the case, then come." Suddenly a white aura surged on her face. Her whole body was covered in white mist. In just a moment, everyone in the arena felt a chill. The temperature actually dropped to below freezing point. In less than 10 breaths of time, a layer of dense white ice had appeared on the stage. This is the mysterious Yin technique. A few high school teachers stood up at the same time and looked at the arena in shock. This little princess of the Lan family had actually cultivated the mysterious Yin technique. Moreover, she had already achieved some success. She had already cultivated it to a higher level. This achievement was really no small matter. Shangjing's Yunduan High Martial Arts School wants this little girl from the Lan family. The teacher from Shangjing's Yunduan High Martial Arts School stared at Lan Bingrui, who had already gained control of the entire arena, with an unconcealed fondness. This kind of genius was really suitable for Yunduan High Martial Arts School. Who do you think you are? You think you are? The teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School snorted and glared at him with an unfriendly gaze. The teacher from Yunduan High Martial Arts School said indifferently, "Since you have withdrawn from the competition, you are naturally ours. However, we will return the favor with a gift. As long as you agree, we will not fight with you for the remaining geniuses, such as Wuxia Duo and Zhou Yunqing." Ding Xiulan narrowed her eyes. The teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School also had a change in expression. Both of them asked at the same time, "A gentleman keeps his word? A man keeps his word." The teacher from Yunduan High Martial Arts School said indifferently, "A man keeps his word. What's there to doubt?" "All right, it's settled then." Both of them agreed at the same time, as if they were afraid that the other party would go back on his word. At this moment, the temperature in the arena dropped even lower. The temperature in the arena had already dropped to below zero. It was just that it had dropped to a few dozen degrees below zero. Lan Bingrui was still continuously activating the mysterious Yin technique. Her long sword fluttered and attacked aggressively, suppressing Wuxiao Duo. With a sword in one hand and a palm in the other, she flew horizontally and vertically, like a fairy flying in a world of ice and snow, exuding an icy aura. At this moment, even the edges of the arena began to be covered with icicles. Higher up, the heat of the natural weather clashed with it. From time to time, a mist would rise and dissipate. Wuxiao Duo, who was the focal point of the cold attack, was already covered with frost. Even his eyebrows and hair were dyed white. However, the sword in his hand did not relax at all. He was still counterattacking with every move. He was actually stable from beginning to end and did not give an inch. The outcome has been decided. Wuxiao Duo is bound to lose. Ding Xiulan looked at Wuxiao Duo tenaciously fighting in the arena with heartache. She shook her head and said disappointedly, "This battle is not the fault of the battle. It is not the fault of the battle." The teacher from Hidden Dragon High School also sighed deeply. This battle of geniuses is lost because of the family background, not because of the individual. If Wuxiao Duo had a set of matching martial arts, the battle would not be so one-sided. Sigh. Wuxiao Duo lost this battle unjustly. A clear and long cry sounded in the arena again. Lan Bingrui's slim and tall body flew up into the sky. Her long sword suddenly emitted 9 white icy sword auras. Her right palm pushed and pulled back and then suddenly pushed out. A storm of ice and snow was formed, falling from the sky, and the target was Wuxiao Duo. The wind from the palm tore the air, making a sharp whistle. A murderous aura biting cold almost formed. Murderous intent. This is the mysterious Yin Ice Soul Palm. Ding Xiulan was shocked. The other referees also stood up abruptly, ready to help at any time. This palm was powerful and tyrannical, and its killing intent had already been established. If Wuxiao Duo couldn't withstand it, he would be frozen into a popsicle along with his soul. The mysterious Yin Ice Soul Palm was a tyrannical killing move that wreaked havoc in the world. Too many people knew the terrifying and insidious level of this palm technique. As long as Wuxiao Duo showed signs of being unable to withstand it, the judges would help. They definitely wouldn't watch a peerless genius like Zhou Xiaoduo die like this. At this moment, Lan Bingrui, who was in the air, had a trace of regret in her eyes, but then she became determined again. Zhou Xiaoduo's tenacity had greatly exceeded her expectations. If she did not use this trump card, she would not be able to defeat this guy in front of her. She had no choice but to push the battle to this extreme. As long as you withdraw and admit defeat, you can save your life. But if you insist on being brave, you will die. You can only blame yourself for not knowing the situation. I will not hold back this time. So what if I kill you? Right at this critical moment, an unexpected event occurred abruptly, and it caused everyone to be astounded. Because in the area covered by the ice and snow, an explosive and furious roar suddenly appeared, piercing through the clouds and splitting rocks, shocking the heavens. At the same time, a ball of fiery red suddenly rose from the middle of the ice and snow. Zhou Xiaoduo's voice was heard, speaking in an eerie tone. Fiery sun. Zhou Xiaoduo was furious. Killing intent. I have been merciful all this time. You want to kill me? In an instant, the fiery sun sutra reached its breaking point in his fury. Under everyone's gaze, a ball of dazzling fiery red suddenly appeared in the ice and snow field. Exploding, bursting, exploding. Then it rose up and turned into a blazing sun that was close at hand. Zhou Xiaoduo held a sharp sword in his hand, and his whole body soared into the sky like a rising sun. The power of the sun melted and burned the ice and snow in the sky in an instant, and his whole body was surrounded by rolling heat waves. The sharp sword in his hand turned into a drizzle, and the drizzle turned into a violent storm, sweeping across the sky and earth, and drowning Lan Bingrui's sword light. At the same time, Zhou Xiaoduo's left palm, which was like a furnace soaring into the sky, collided with Lan Bingrui's mysterious Yin Ice Soul palm without dodging. The fiery sun sutra of extreme yang, extreme heat, and extreme heat suddenly erupted, facing the mysterious Yin Ice Soul palm head-on. Boom! With a blood-curdling scream, Lan Bingrui was sent flying along with her sword. She flew more than 200 meters like a kite with a broken string. Her beautiful hair was completely roasted in the process of flying back. A white shadow soared into the sky like lightning, and caught Lan Bingrui in his hand. His fingers were like phantoms, and he hit all the major acupoints on Lan Bingrui's body one after another. Then he poured several elixirs and 2 bottles of potions into her body. The white shadow didn't land on the ground after saving her, but stopped in the air, holding the unconscious Lan Bingrui. He turned his head to look at Zhou Xiaoduo in the field, and said lightly, "The fiery sun sutra has reappeared in the world. Not bad, not bad. You are a talent. In the future, Ruer will come to you again." It was a woman's voice. Then she said lightly, "Lan Bingrui's internal qi has reversed, and her injury is very serious. She can't be cured here. I will take her back now. Sorry for delaying the rest of the competition." Before he finished speaking, his entire body soared into the sky. Following a flash of sword light, he had already sped into the horizon and disappeared without a trace. The whole field was still steaming hot and misty. Zhou Xiaoduo quietly landed on the ground, gasping for breath. His face was flushed, and it was obvious that the operation just now had consumed a lot of energy. But for Zhou Xiaoduo, this consumption was not a problem. What really shocked him was something else. He couldn't help but raise his head and look in the direction where the woman left. At that moment, when the woman had just appeared, Zhou Xiaoduo had clearly felt an unprecedentedly sharp murderous aura enveloping his entire body. That woman just now, she also wanted to kill me? But she didn't because of the environment? Why? Chapter 348. Zhou Xiaoduo was confused. This is just a competition. Even if I severely injured your disciple, it's still a competition. Moreover, the techniques I used all belong to the Kunlun Taoist sect. Is it necessary to kill me? Zhou Xiaoduo did not regret his decision, even though he had used an extreme burst of power in his last palm strike. The last palm strike might very well cause Lan Bingrui to fall, but Zhou Xiaoduo didn't care. This was because Lan Bingrui's last attack was an extreme one. She did not hold back at all. If Zhou Xiaoduo only had the strength that he had displayed previously, he would have died without a doubt after receiving that palm. Even the referee might not be able to save Zhou Xiaoduo. Zhou Xiaoduo thought that he had shown mercy from the beginning. Hidden weapons are useless? Not necessarily. Even if your clothes are extremely mysterious and don't need to be activated, with my attainments in hidden weapons, especially my strange turning skills, I really can't blind your eyes? I only use the drizzle sword to deal with you. Do you think I don't know anything else? I can turn you into a meat patty if I take out my big hammer. Zhou Xiaoduo did not even use the essence of the drizzle sword. Otherwise, Lan Bingrui would not have been able to change her sword technique so easily. In this battle, Zhou Xiaoduo did not even want to reveal his sword, let alone the Flaming Sun Sutra. Now, not only was he forced to reveal his sword by Lan Bingrui, but he also had to reveal the strength of the Flaming Sun Sutra. Although he won, Zhou Xiaoduo was still very unhappy. I exposed 2 more trump cards. How am I going to continue? I'm almost out of trump cards. How sad. Within a radius of several thousand meters, water mist rose and filled the air, like a mushroom cloud rising into the sky and gradually disappearing. It was only after a long time that the entire spectator stand regained its vision. Apart from the few people who were closest to it, the others, even if they had excellent eyesight, could only see a flash of red light before their eyes were obscured by the rising water vapor, unable to see anything else. Well, perhaps he could vaguely hear a person say a few words in the air, but he really couldn't hear anything else. After a while, he finally saw Zhou Xiaoduo in the ring. The live stream was filled with fog, and nothing else could be seen. The only thing that was clearly heard by everyone was the words that the man said before he left. The Flaming Sun Scripture. Flaming Sun Scripture? Cough cough. Someone coughed softly. Zhou Xiaoduo turned around and saw that all 6 referees of the competition were standing behind him. He did not know when they had all gathered together. Other than the 6 of them, there were 7 or 8 other high martial arts teachers who were standing not far away from him. At this moment, the entire place was silent. Everyone was looking at him as if he was a monster. The one who coughed just now was the horse-faced teacher, Ma Zhangxi. Teacher Ma's face was filled with disappointment and dejection. He understood that after this battle, his Huayong High Martial Arts School's dream of recruiting Zhou Xiaoduo into the school had become a wishful thinking. There was no chance of that at all. Ding Xiulan's face was filled with shock. Her eyes were sparkling like a dragon who had discovered a boundless treasure. The other teacher's eyes were also shining brightly. Then, Ding Xiulan and the teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School turned their heads at the same time. They looked at the teacher from Shangjing High Martial Arts School and said in unison, "Teacher Cui, your words are like the wind. You can't go back on your words. This was Xiaoduo, you've already said that you've given up on him. You can't fight with us anymore." Teacher Chui's face was filled with shock. He was stunned on the spot. Don't fight? What the fuck? If I don't fight with such a legendary genius, I'm afraid I'll be beaten to death by the school's leaders when I get back. However, the words that came out of his mouth were like water that had been spilled. Teacher Chui's face was flushed red. His face and neck were red as he argued, I said that I won't fight with you. I said that I won't fight with you. Even though I'm fucking right. I said that I won't fight with you. Of course, I'm a man of my words. But just now, the principal called and said that we'll fight for him. The principal has spoken. What's the use of my words? Teacher Cui acted shamelessly on the spot. He even threw a tantrum. His mature and dignified appearance from before was completely gone. Ding Xiulan and the teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School scolded in unison. Shameless. Cui Shangyan, you're a teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School. How dare you go back on your words? You said that you're a man of your words. Now you're treating your words like farts. It stinks. Teacher Chui's face was red as he said, "It's our principal who said that. Our principal said that we'll fight for him. Your principal's face is being used by you for this." Ding Xiulan snorted. Then she took out a phone and pressed on it with her hand. Teacher Cui Shangyan's voice could be heard clearly from the phone. Our high martial arts school wants this Lan Bingrui. As a condition, that's what Xiaoduo Zhou Yunqing won't fight with you. Cui Shangyan's face was pale as if he had seen a ghost. You actually recorded it. Ding Xiulan's face was full of disdain. Who in the martial arts world doesn't know what kind of morals you high martial arts school have? If I didn't guard against you guys, wouldn't I have lived for so long in vain? Listen carefully, Cui Shangyan, you better listen carefully. This promise is made by you on behalf of High Martial Arts School. Listen carefully. Yes, our High Martial Arts School. May I ask what these words mean? Even if your principal really came, would he be able to change this fact? Ding Xiulan was in high spirits in this matter. Your High Martial Arts School is out. Yes, your High Martial Arts School is out. The teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School was in high spirits. Fuck, women are so scheming. This time, I'm lucky that I'm with a woman. Otherwise, this Chui guy would really blame me. Cui Shangyan flew into a rage and directly shed all pretense of cordiality. Was a talent more important than face? There was no need to talk about this. Even if my reputation is ruined, I'll still take this person for myself. This is an all-round talent in martial arts and he's even mastered the Flaming Sun manual. You guys want to force me out with just a few words? You've all gone crazy thinking about it. Shameless. Shameless. You're insane. Ding Xiulan scolded. I'll announce it on the internet right now and spread it all over the world. Cui Shangyan, I'll let you stink for 3 lifetimes. Even if I stink for 10 lifetimes, I'll still take him. Cui Shangyan had nothing to lose and was completely shameless. However, he felt relaxed instead, as if he had broken through some kind of shackle, and said angrily, I'll go back on my words. So what? My words are like farts, what can you do about it? All the teachers, including Ding Xiulan, were speechless. Fuck. The teacher from Hidden Dragon High School muttered angrily, I've helped you break through your limits. This ability to speak like farts. Swixiao Duo had just opened his eyes when all the teachers around him swarmed over and locked their gazes on him. Just as Cui Shangyan had said, in terms of ability, he was all-round in martial arts, and hidden weapons. He also had the ability to see the big picture, organize, strategize, and set up a situation. He lacked nothing. In terms of personality, he had a righteous heart, respected his teachers, and was not pedantic at all. He was flexible and quick-witted. This kind of student was an all-rounder that one could only dream of. What's more, he had mastered the legendary Flaming Sun manual. It had even elevated him to the level of a peerless monster. Not taking him in. Give up? What a joke. Even if they couldn't beat the big 3, they still had to fight for him. They had to fight for him. Otherwise, when the principal saw the video, he would say, fuck, not being able to beat the big 3 is one reason, but you didn't even fight for such a genius. That's a sin. Who knows, he might be related to our high school. Who knows, he might have thought of coming to our school. You didn't even let out a fart? Even if he wanted to come, he wouldn't have that direction. That would be terrible. Swixiao Duo, you brat. Ha ha ha, you're quite sinister, but I like it. Ding Xiulan first laughed loudly, then said affectionately, you child, why are you so scheming? Haha, you're really lovable. Not bad at all. The teacher from Hidden Dragon High School laughed. This is the first time I, Zhan Xiaofei, have met such a suitable student like you. He laughed heartily and said to the teachers with a sigh, back then, there was an expert who told my fortune. He said that my name, Zhan Xiaofei, although it didn't seem very impressive, it had the ability to protect students. If one day he met a student whose second character was also Xiao, then this student would spread his wings and soar into the sky. That's why I'm called Zhan Xiaofei. Now it seems that I've found it. He sighed and said, this is all destined. That old immortal, a true god, said it. It was too accurate. Zhan Xiaofei, you fucking bastard. 7 or 8 teachers roared together. How could he make up a story on the spot? He actually said, the second character in his name is Xiao. Could he have made it more obvious? Ha ha ha. Zhan Xiaofei is really shameless. Teacher Cui Shangyan laughed loudly and said to Swixiao Duo enthusiastically, students Swixiao Duo, I'm the number 1 teacher from Yunduan High School in the 3 big schools. My name is. You're not a bastard. The other teachers roared together, get lost. Cui Shangyan acted as if he didn't hear anything. His expression didn't change. My name is Cui Shangyan. Compared to Xiaoduo's future, I don't care about this face of mine. As long as Xiao Duo enters our Yunduan High School, everything is worth it. I can give up anything. The anxiety in Zhuoxiaoduo's heart gradually calmed down. So they're not here to pursue the matter of me lying. I seem to have said before that the Dragon Gate kick was my trump card. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel relieved. He scratched his head and said carefully, "Teacher, the competition isn't over yet. Fourth update, did you feel good today? Could you please vote for me?" After that, the great senior of the UMNO alliance personally made a move. He hid in the army and pretended to be in a dream. Then, his spiritual power suddenly exploded. With a much stronger spiritual power, he broke the foundation of the Great Dream Divine Technique. That was why this teacher returned to the Dragon Soul sect. Today, when he heard that a successor of the Great Dream Divine Technique had appeared in the Dragon and Tiger ranking tournament, the old man almost ran over that night. Then he gave a death order. "If you don't bring this student back, the few of you who went to be the judges don't come back. If this old man loses such a successor, there's no meaning in living anymore. I might as well die and die." When the teachers of Dragon Soul High School received the news, they were almost scared to death. They ran over and almost swore to do Li Zhongming's job. In the end, it was Hu Ruoyun who helped Li Zhongming make the decision. Li Zhongming go to Dragon Soul High School. This matter was settled. Yes, just this matter. Hu Ruoyun's spatial ring was filled up because of this, following in the footsteps of Zhuoxiaoduo. 2 sleeves of gold wind, and the quality was not inferior by much. There were also many famous schools that looked for Long Yuxing, but Long Yuxing only said one sentence. "Wherever Xiao'er goes, I will go." Everyone understood this point. After all, a long-distance relationship could easily lead to a tragedy. However, Wanli Xiao was not so easy to decide. After all, she came from a huge family with a deep background, and she still had to listen to her family's opinion. It was probably because of this layer of relationship that several schools threw over 2 acceptance letters. Wherever you want to go, you can choose from them. As for Li Chenglong, his choice of school was more interesting. It could be simply summed up in one sentence: "If possible, I will go wherever Zwa goes." With his swollen qualifications and his profound knowledge, even the 3 famous schools would be happy to accept him. It could be said that almost no high school would reject him. The so-called Iron Straight Man and so on, not only was it not a minus point, but it was also a big plus point. However, he expressed his intention to follow Zhuoxiaoduo, which caused some twists and turns in his future path. This was because while Zhuoxiaoduo became popular, it also became a compromise between the high schools. It was basically impossible for a school to accept both Zhuoxiaoduo and Li Chenglong at the same time. Once this was done, it would definitely cause a lot of dissatisfaction from the other schools. For this reason, Hu Ruoyun specially looked for Li Chenglong to have a deep talk. She even told him the original words of the old principle: "Everyone should be the main character in their respective roles. Everyone should go and seize their own destiny. Don't gather together." However, Li Chenglong turned a deaf ear to all of this and did not care at all. "Teacher Hu, you also know that my strength is not in my martial strength, but more in my own encyclopedic knowledge and photographic memory. And all of this, from a certain point of view, is a support. My best position is definitely not to charge and break through enemy lines but to support. Even though my body will continue to grow stronger, I will never become a candidate for Commander-in-Chief. My position will only fall on the side of the Commander-in-Chief. Strategists, aides and so on. Giving advice and suggestions is where I can display my abilities the most. Following Zhua, I don't have to think about anything." Li Chenglong said, "All the strategic decisions and general direction will be made by him, and I will be in charge of the details, deductions, arrangements, planning. All of this. I am not a talented commander, nor am I a talented general, and I will definitely not be the vanguard. I have always been very clear about my position. Therefore, between me and Zhua, there is no need for any underlings, and there is also no problem of my destiny being seized." Li Chenglong appeared to be abnormally clear-headed. "This is my position in life. This will never change and it will never change." There was one thing that Swollen did not say. It was that Zhuoxiaoduo's Flaming Sun Sutra was of great benefit to Li Chenglong. Even if it was just practicing by Zhuoxiaoduo's side, Swollen could still improve by leaps and bounds. You want me to quit being Zhu's underling? Even if a god came, it would be impossible. I'm definitely hugging this thigh. Hu Ruoyan also felt a lot of emotions after hearing Li Chenglong's long-winded speech. Since Li Chenglong had already made up his mind, his position was clear, and he had reason and evidence. Hu Ruoyan did not say anything more, but she felt a little strange in her heart. This world-famous brother Steele actually said that he was actually just a support and wanted to be the man besides Wuxiao Duo. Why did this make people feel strange when they heard it? The top 4 had been smoothly decided. Phoenix City 2nd high, Water City 1st high, Fenghai 3rd high, and Phoenix Tail 1st high. Yang Luo 1st high, who was ranked 2nd on the hot list to win the championship, actually did not lose much of their true strength after the battle with Phoenix City 2nd high. However, their trump card Lan Bingrui was gone, and they lost their strongest combat power. This was the main reason why they swept out of the top 4. Although Fenghai 3rd high lost to Water City 1st high, they drew lots to face Yang Luo 1st high again and won. In the end, it was still Phoenix Tail against Songshan. After another round, Phoenix Tail 1st high still won. At this point, Phoenix Tail 1st high successfully entered the top 4 and created a historical ranking for their school. The higher-ups and students of Phoenix Tail 1st high knew very well that their school was already at its limit. It was destined to be impossible for them to take another step forward. The defeated Songshan 1st high still needed to fight with Yang Luo 1st high to determine the 5th and 6th rankings. However, no one cared about that anymore. The top 4 drew lots. Phoenix City 2nd high against Fenghai 3rd high. Water City 1st high against Phoenix Tail 1st high. Half a morning later, the 2 battles were over. Phoenix City 2nd high and Water City 1st high won one after another. The champion and runner-up would be between the 2 teams. The 3rd place would be between Fenghai 3rd high and Phoenix Tail 1st high. Phoenix Tail 1st high realized that the situation that was beneficial to them did not appear, and could not help but be disappointed. It was probably because no one had suffered much damage in the semi-finals. The scene of Phoenix City 2nd high beating up Fenghai 3rd high did not appear, nor did they cripple Fenghai 3rd high. In this way, they would be facing a complete Fenghai 3rd high school. The 2 sides were not on the same level at all. How could they not be disappointed? However, Phoenix Tail 1st high was satisfied after picking up all the advantages along the way. There was no need for the students to go up and lose face again and be beaten up. Therefore, after the school's higher-ups discussed it, they made a joint decision. Admit defeat and give up on the last round of the competition. Therefore, the 3rd place of this year's Longhu list was released first. Furthermore, it was released 3 days earlier than the champion and runner-up. This matter was also a historical precedent. This made everyone feel disappointed and frustrated. Fortunately, there was still the battle between the champion and runner-up to watch, so it was not too disappointing. Chapter 350. Everyone was looking forward to the Battle of the Champions 3 days later, which was the 5th of September. Yes, that's right, it was the 5th of September. The competition started on the 18th, and it had been 15 days since then. This date had been set long ago. The 5th of September would be the finals of the champions and runners-up. The winner would be crowned as the emperor. Only the Central Plains had the right to hold the finals on the 5th of September. No other regions could do it. Not even the martial arts competition in Shangjing could. Since ancient times, there was a saying that established the transcendent status of the Central Plains. Fight for the throne in the Central Plains. Only by winning the battle for the throne in the Central Plains could one become the emperor. In other regions, they weren't qualified and didn't count. Only the last competition was left. 3 more days. After getting 3 days of rest, the 6 from Phoenix City gave up on cultivating and went out to play. Nanji City was very big, and there were many fun places to play. For them, who had never been to this city before, it was still very attractive. Luolai followed them out, but Hu Ruoyan didn't follow them. She stayed behind to summarize what she had seen and learned. Regarding this summary, she wrote it very thoroughly, meticulously. From the champion teams and their students, we can deduce the strengths and weaknesses of their schools, as well as the areas where they are stronger than us. From the current situation of the participating teams, We can analyze the current situation of the schools and combine it with last year's ranking and this year's ranking. We can make up for our shortcomings by summarizing them. We can work hard for the future. Zuo duo li chenglong long yusheng. These kinds of genius students don't appear every year. The most important reason for this is that teacher Qin Fongyang burned his own soul to pass on his knowledge to his students. The excellent results this time were just a coincidence, a result of a moment of luck. We must be vigilant against wishful thinking. We must go around inspecting retired and disabled soldiers. Those who are qualified will be given a letter of appointment to become a lecturer in the school. We must nurture the mighty iron and blood spirit of the students. There was a lot more. Hu Ruoyun racked her brain and wrote down everything she had seen, heard, and analyzed bit by bit. We may not be able to enter the High Martial Arts Academy, but the students of the High Martial Arts Academy are all sent over by schools like ours. We work hard to ensure that the talents we send out are the best. Even if his martial prowess is slightly lacking, his character must be of the highest quality. The old principal's wish is truly insightful. We may not be able to do as well as the old principal, but we can turn our efforts into results bit by bit and gradually build perfection. The plan is as follows. She had been writing since the morning, and had been writing all day, stopping to rest when she was tired, or looking out of the window and meditating and then going on. It wasn't until his stomach rumbled that he felt hungry. He looked up and saw that the sky had darkened. Only then did he stop. She immediately felt that there was something wrong beside her. She saw that teacher Ding Xiulan of the ancestral dragon was right beside her. She was looking at Hu Ruoyun with eyes full of admiration and respect. Mr. Ding, when did you arrive? Hu Ruoyun was a little shocked. Why didn't I notice it at all? I've been here for almost a day. Ding Xiulan exclaimed in admiration. I've been watching you write for a whole day. Teacher Hu's notes. Every word is a gem. You have great foresight and meticulous thoughts. Overflowing with talent is not enough to describe you. Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Ding. Hu Ruoyun was a little embarrassed by the compliment. It's not a compliment at all. Ding Xiulan's eyes were burning. Teacher Hu, only someone like you can be called a real teacher. You teach and educate people and you're a role model. You deserve all of our respect. She pondered for a moment and said, Teacher Hu, I wonder if you're interested in coming to Shangjing's Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts Academy? I believe that with a talent like you, if you go to Ancestral Dragon, you'll definitely be able to play a greater role and educate talents better. Hu Ruoyun laughed. You're too kind, Mr. Ding. You want me, a person who has been crippled for many years and just started over, to go to Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts Academy to teach? Haha, how am I qualified? No, you're qualified. You're more qualified than anyone else. Ding Xiulan said seriously and solemnly, Teacher Hu, I'm sincerely inviting you. I'm not being hypocritical. No. Hu Ruoyun shook her head firmly and refused. A gentle smile appeared on her face. I promised the old principal that I would take good care of Phoenix City's second high school. What a pity. Ding Xiulan requested, Teacher Hu, you've already finished writing these. Can you let me make a copy and bring it back? Hu Ruoyun hesitated for a moment and said, As long as Teacher Ding doesn't mind, I'm fine with it. Ding Xiulan felt as if she had received a treasure. Thank you, Teacher Hu. Let's go. I'll treat you to a meal. How can I accept that? Of course. Okay. Ding Xiulan went to make a copy first. Then the two of them found a quiet and secluded shop. They listened to the gentle music and chatted quietly. Both of them felt very comfortable. I wonder where Xiao Duo and the others have run off to play now. After eating for a while, Hu Ruoyun could not help but start to worry about her students when night fell. You don't have to worry about them. Ding Xiulan smiled and said, Now those children are the treasures in the eyes of the various high martial arts universities. Dozens of high martial arts teachers have followed and protected them the moment they went out today. How could anything happen to them? Hu Ruoyun pursed her lips and smiled. That's why I didn't go out. Just now I couldn't help but nag a little when I saw that it was already late. Ding Xiulan smiled and said, Teacher Hu, I have a favor to ask of you. Hu Ruoyun smiled faintly. You want to know more about Zhuo Duo? Ding Xiulan nodded repeatedly. There's nothing wrong with that. Hu Ruoyun sighed softly. Xiao Duo, this child has a hard life. What do you mean by that? Ding Xiulan was immediately interested. Ding Xiulan was a high martial arts teacher. Regardless of cultivation, strength, identity, or background, she was extraordinary. Her sharp eyes were unique. Based on her understanding of Zhuo Duo and her judgment and inference, even if Zhuo Duo's background was not as good as Lan Bingrui's, he was definitely not an ordinary person. Just based on his mastery of the three martial arts of the Kunlun Taoist sect, his mastery of rare divine weapons, and his success in cultivating the Flaming Sun divine skill, it was reasonable to say that Zhuo Duo was a seed disciple carefully cultivated by an ancient martial arts family. If I told you that all of his achievements were achieved in a short period of time, and that he was just a martial disciple half a year ago, how would you feel? Hu Ruoyun smiled bitterly and said sadly, "This child, these years have been really hard." How is this possible? Ding Xiulan exclaimed and stood up. She couldn't help but raise her voice a little, which attracted the attention of the guests at the surrounding tables. Ding Xiulan hurriedly sat back down and quietly waited for Hu Ruoyun to continue. This is true, it's not a lie. Hu Ruoyun said sadly. Why do you think Xiao Duo seems to be afraid of me? It's not fear, it's respect. I watched him walk over every day. At that time my cultivation was destroyed, so I could only teach the martial disciple class. And Zhuo Duo in my class stayed back for 5 years. Ding Xiulan was stunned by these words. Now Zhuo Duo, who appeared out of nowhere and dominated the competition, actually stayed back for 5 years in the martial disciple class? I don't know what happened to his astral souls, but it was suppressed. And he couldn't break through. In the 5 years he stayed back, he put in a lot more effort than ordinary people. In Hu Ruoyun's words, Zhuo Duo was like a painting that slowly unfolded in front of Ding Xiulan. He was strong, tenacious, endured humiliation, was indomitable, righteous, looked at the big picture, respected his teachers, loved to protect the weak, worked hard to the extreme, shouldered all the pressure by himself, and smiled as if he didn't care about it. In a private room separated from the two of them, the Hidden Dragon High School teacher Zhang Xiaofei pricked up his ears, carefully listening to the conversation. His face was full of lingering fear. When he said half a year ago he was still a martial disciple, he couldn't help but hit the table. Fortunately, Ding Xiulan's side made more noise and covered it. But he still had lingering fear. Sure enough, it's easier for women to get close to each other. Luckily, I found out in time and followed her out. Today I took the right step. I didn't expect Zhuo Duo to have such a hard time. He's a good seedling, a good child. With this experience, his state of mind will be much higher than his peers. No one can compare to him. Zhang Xiaofei was deep in thought, but he was even more careful and didn't make any sound. Ding Xiulan came to find Hu Ruoyun to understand the situation. It could be said that she found the right person, but it could also be said that she found the wrong person. The so-called right person meant that in this world, there was no one who could understand Zhuo Duo better than Hu Ruoyun. Even Zhuo Chonglu, Wu Yuding, and Zhuo Xiaonian didn't know as much as Hu Ruoyun in this aspect. From Hu Ruoyun, one could understand an extremely comprehensive and complete Zhuo Duo. But to say that she found the wrong person, it was because what she understood from Hu Ruoyun was a Zhuo Duo who had no flaws at all. He was almost like a saint. For someone like Zhuo Duo, from Hu Ruoyun to understand him, it was completely different. The Zhuo Duo in Hu Ruoyun's mouth and the real Zhuo Duo were totally different. But all of Hu Ruoyun's words were from the bottom of her heart. Because in her eyes Zhuo Duo was such a perfect child. She couldn't find any flaws in him at all. This was the truth in Hu Ruoyun's eyes. The only one in the world, the best in the world without any flaws, was Zhuo Duo. He was just a little mischievous, but was that a flaw? That was a merit. Chapter 351. On the day Xiao Duo broke through to martial warrior, I cried when I got home. It's really not easy for this child. Hu Ruoyun blushed and said embarrassedly, in my last year in class, Xiao Duo was already 1.8 meters tall. The other children were only 1 or 2 meters. That awkwardness, sigh. As a woman, Ding Xiulan was naturally a very emotional person. Hearing this, her eyes also reddened. She could empathize with her. It's really not easy, this child. Just half a year ago, I sent Xiao Duo to the martial warrior class. Xiao Duo was already at the door, but he rushed back and hugged me. He said in my ear, "Teacher Hu, thank you." Hu Ruoyun's eyes were filled with tears. She choked and said, "I think I'll never forget that scene for the rest of my life." I don't know if it's because of his accumulation or something else, but ever since Xiao Duo broke through to martial warrior, he suddenly began to improve by leaps and bounds. In just a week, he broke through from martial warrior to martial master. Then, he quickly advanced to the peak of martial master. Ding Xiulan opened her mouth, but she didn't ask. She wanted to ask if this was too fast, and if it was hard to strengthen his foundation, it wouldn't be good for long-term planning. However, after thinking about it, she still chose to listen. Just as he was about to lose control of his breakthrough and break through to Xiantian, his homeroom teacher, Teacher Qin Fangyang, forcefully interrupted his breakthrough. Hu Ruoyun said, "Good. Well done." Ding Xiulan couldn't help but applaud. This teacher Qin did a good job. Then Hu Ruoyun hesitated. Ding Xiulan's heart was itching. She couldn't help but ask, "Then how many times did Zhou Xiaoduo suppress his inner yuan to break through in the martial master realm?" On the other side, Zhang Xiaofei instantly raised his cultivation to the extreme. His ears almost grew out of their sockets as he concentrated. This question was too critical, too urgent. Hu Ruoyun hesitated even more and didn't answer for a long time. This kind of huge problem of the student's foundation was not something that could be casually discussed. However, the other party was a teacher from one of the top 3 martial arts universities. It was related to Zhou Xiaoduo's future, and it was also related to whether or not he was valued in school, and to what extent. After a long time, Hu Ruoyun lowered her voice and said, "As far as I know, at least 14 or 15 times. Who?" Ding Xiulan spat out a mouthful of coffee. She was so shocked that her eyes widened. 10, 14 or 15 times. Teacher Hu, this 9 is the limit. Sorry. She had originally planned to suppress it 5 or 6 times in such a short period of time, and that was already her limit. They were all prepared to praise him. What a genius! In the end, it turned out to be 14 or 15 times, and that was the least. Not only did he fail to say the words he had prepared, but he also spat out coffee all over Hu Ruoyun's body. She hurriedly apologized and took out a napkin in a flurry. On the other side, Zhang Xiaofei was doing the same thing. He covered his mouth and tried his best to endure the coughing. He endured it so much that he rolled his eyes and didn't dare to make a sound. Scared me to death. Since ancient times, who could suppress the true essence agitation more than 10 times? This was Xiao Duo, however, did it directly to 14 or 15 times. What the fuck? This could no longer be described as a monstrous genius. It could only be described with the word fuck. This matter is true. Hu Ruoyun calmly wiped the coffee on her body and said, "This point, Qin Fangyang and Li Changjiang all know. Based on the time when he was about to break through, didn't he have to suppress it once or twice a day?" Ding Xiulan still felt that it was inconceivable, so she asked, "Yes." Hu Ruoyun nodded. No wonder he could carry a weight of more than 10,000 pounds and jump around as if nothing was wrong. Ding Xiulan muttered, "This is really too shocking." Hu Ruoyun smiled faintly and said, "This child has always been low-key. When he was in school, he always carried a weight of 70,000 pounds and entered the 50x gravity room to cultivate." Ding Xiulan, who originally felt numb from the shock and wanted to drink coffee to calm down, spat out another mouthful of coffee. Then she coughed again, choking her eyes until they were straight. Finally, Hu Ruoyun learned her lesson and did not spit out the second mouthful of coffee. Ding Xiulan, who was still coughing, suddenly frowned. Then she floated up and shouted, "Who?" It was Zhang Xiaofei, who was on the other side, who was shocked for the second time, choking and coughing. Ding Xiulan immediately noticed it, and he reacted quickly. He immediately felt that something was wrong. But when he was about to leave, Ding Xiulan had already pounced on him. A ray of sword light appeared, and its power was approaching. Zhang Xiaofei hurriedly stood up and waved his hands. Don't fight, we're on the same side." "On the same side?" Seeing that it was him, Ding Xiulan did not know that she was being followed. She was embarrassed and angry at the same time, and even a little hysterical. This bastard. He saw all of this mother's loss of self-control and even eavesdropped on my exclusive information. Suddenly, a violent emotion rushed to her head. Who is on the same side as you? Go and die. Despicable and shameless old bastard. The power of the sword light did not decrease, but increased instead. It rushed down violently, revealing a dense killing intent. Zhang Xiaofei saw the situation and knew that it was not good. He shouted and used all his strength to stomp a big hole in the floor. His body fell down and he laughed loudly. I won't fight with you. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. I'll have to trouble Teacher Ding to compensate. The last sentence came from thousands of meters away. He actually left in defeat. Anyway, he knew what he should and shouldn't know. This was enough. If he didn't leave, was he waiting for the tigress to flip out? Bastard. Looking at the dusty hole, the whole shop was in a mess, and there were all kinds of loud exclamations. Ding Xiulan's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. In the end, she could only walk back resentfully and say angrily, It's Zhang Xiaofei from the Hidden Dragon High School. This bastard, he's too rude. He secretly hid here to listen to our private conversation. Sigh, I'm so angry. Hu Ruoyan's eyes lit up. Is it Teacher Zhang from the Hidden Dragon High School? That's really great. This sentence was really what she thought in her heart, and she couldn't help but blurt it out. In Ding Xiulan's ears there was no need to mention how it felt. She was too embarrassed to flare up, so she could only sulk. She was so angry that her breasts grew a cup size. Zhou Xiaoduo and the others went out to play. Many high school teachers secretly followed them, afraid that something would happen to these precious children. Then many people guessed where these guys would go to play, but they didn't know that the 6 of them had already discussed at the hotel entrance. Wan Lixiu said, Why don't we go buy clothes? It's my treat. No matter what you want to buy, I'll pay for it. The other 5 shook their heads neatly, like 5 puppies shaking their heads together. Not going. No one was willing to take advantage of such a ready-made bargain. Even Zhou Xiaoduo, who valued money more than life, was no exception. They knew that if there were only 5 boys shopping together, it would only take a snap of the fingers to spend money. But if there was another girl, it would be hard to say if there was enough time in the day. Not only would it consume money, but it would also consume their feet, shoes, and spirit. Li Chenglong suggested, let's go bungee jumping. I heard that Nanji City's bungee jumping facilities are very famous. Everyone who comes here for the first time will try it. The 5 of them shook their heads together. Do you still think you're an ordinary person? Everyone can jump more than 100 meters with a casual jump. What bungee jumping? Zhou Xiaoduo said, I bungee jump hundreds of times a day. I'm already tired of it. Yu Moyan suggested, why don't we go play with guns? The 5 of them shook their heads. They were all experts in cultivation, so they weren't interested in this kind of thing. In the end, it was Zhou Xiaoduo who suggested, let's go to the amusement park. Amusement park? Everyone shook their heads in secret. This was even more unreliable. Only children would play there, right? How old are you? Why do you still want to go to the amusement park? Unexpectedly, when the other 5 heard this suggestion, they were unusually happy. They unanimously agreed and led the way in high spirits. The martial arts teachers looked at this scene with blank eyes. They felt that their worldview had been shattered, and they couldn't understand it. However, they could only secretly follow the few of them to the amusement park. They saw a few tall and burly fellows riding the merry-go-round. They swayed up and down on the merry-go-round, laughing uncontrollably and making all kinds of strange sounds on purpose, causing people to cry out in surprise. After playing for a long time, they reluctantly went to line up for the pirate ship. Then they went to ride the roller coaster. They made a big fuss all the way to the finish line. After that, 6 of them lined up, holding small bamboo poles, and went to the man-made pond to fish. They fished for half an hour without moving, but they still didn't catch a single fish. All the rides in the amusement park were happily played by these fellows, but they still didn't have enough. Li Chenglong, who had the most fun, suggested, why don't we come back tomorrow and play for another day? He immediately received unanimous agreement. Many of the martial arts teachers fell silent. After a long time they sighed. They almost didn't have a childhood, right? One of the teachers was silent for a long time, and suddenly said, "That's probably it." After sighing together, they all felt an inexplicable sadness in their hearts. Perhaps ordinary people and children who didn't have the aptitude for cultivation would be tired of these rides and wouldn't want to play anymore. However, Zuo and the others had never played them before. This was the trajectory of a martial artist's life. It was the same from childhood to adulthood. Then the 6 of them started a rock-paper-scissors game. Whoever lost would have to treat them to a meal. In the end, Zuo lost, and this fellow began to act shamelessly. He was captured by the 5 of them and escorted to a restaurant while laughing and chatting happily. They are really close. They didn't come together because of this tournament. One of the teachers was envious. Yeah, how could Zuo lack this little money? Acting shamelessly is just a joke, another teacher said. That's right. Zuo doesn't look like a stingy person. The 6 of them ate until their bellies were round. After they came out of the restaurant, they sat quietly at the Spirit Spring Square and enjoyed the night view. They looked at the old men, old women, middle-aged people who were dancing in the square, and children who were giggling as they ran around in the crowd, that they looked at the colorful neon lights around them, that they looked at it quietly. Chapter 352. It was 10 o'clock at night when they went back to the hotel to sleep. Early the next morning, the 6 of them went to the amusement park again and played the whole day. When they were on the roller coaster again, they heard Zuo scolding, "I was wondering why we were so slow today. Yu Moyan, put away your weights." Yu Moyan looked like he had committed a crime and quickly moved. They even brought weights when they came out to play. A teacher sighed. How could it be a coincidence to have such achievements? In the shadows, a graceful figure looked enviously at Zuo and the others who were playing around. She said faintly, "Master, I've never played this before." On the other side, the other shadow sighed and didn't say anything for a long time. For 3 consecutive days, Zuo and the other 5 spent their days in the amusement park, yelling and shouting as they played. Every day, they played until the amusement park closed. On the last day, the 6 of them still walked out of the amusement park reluctantly. Looking at the closed gate, the 6 of them stood in front of it silently for a long time. After a long time, they finally turned and left. Along the way, the 6 of them were silent. No one said a word. A few of them even looked back as they walked, looking at the amusement park that was getting further and further away. The 6 of them knew clearly in their hearts that in this lifetime, they would probably never be able to enjoy themselves as much as they had in the past 3 days. This kind of place didn't belong to them. It was already a privilege to have these 3 days. In the future, they probably wouldn't have another chance to come here. Even if they did, it wouldn't be as neat as today. When the Longhu ranking tournament ended, they would all go to the higher martial arts college to study. It was a foregone conclusion that they would be separated from each other. Each of them had their own life, their own opportunities, their own pursuits, their own battles, and their own lives. In fact, it was extremely difficult for the 6 of them to gather together in an orderly manner. The 6 of them walked on the road in silence. The streetlights stretched their shadows. Under the high light, sometimes the shadows of the 6 bodies merged together, and sometimes they were separated, each drawing a long and narrow shadow. Zuo laughed and said, "Is there a need to be so silent and sad? Let me teach you a song to make you feel more sad." The others forced themselves to be spirited and smiled. "All right, please begin your performance," Zuo said softly as he walked in silence. "All these years I've been alone. The wind has passed, the rain has gone. Friends walk together for a lifetime, those days will no longer exist. A sentence, a lifetime of love, a cup of wine. Friends have never been lonely. You will understand when I call you a friend. There are also wounds, there is also pain, there is also you, there is also me." Zuo sang softly, over and over again. Slowly Wan Lixio joined in, then Long Yuxing, Li Chenglong, and finally Yu Moyan. Zuo had forgotten how many times he had sung the song. Anyway, everyone had learned it and could sing it completely. Everyone's eyes were red as they sang in a low voice. Especially the lines friends walk together for a lifetime. Those days will no longer exist. They all sang with tears streaming down their faces. Wan Lixio's eyes were red as she said, Zua, you must send me the complete score of this song. In addition, you have to play it for me once just for me alone. No problem, no problem. Zua Xiaoduo laughed. Suddenly, he opened his hands and strode forward, shouting at the top of his voice as he sang, a sentence, a lifetime of love, a cup of wine. The sadness of the 5 people behind him was suddenly driven away by his strange appearance. They laughed and chased after him. Joining in the chorus of singing loudly, there was a series of strange cries. At this time, a window on the tall building next to them suddenly opened, and a man's voice was full of impatience. He scolded, a group of little bastards, why are you not sleeping in the middle of the night? Go home and sleep. Believe it or not, I will beat you up. Zua Xiaoduo screamed, are you going to be beaten up? Run. Before his voice died away, he was already the first to run. Run. The 5 people followed Zua Xiaoduo and ran back to the hotel. They all laughed until tears came out of their eyes. Several high school teachers stopped in the air above the hotel. Do you think we should set up some roller coasters or something in the school? Why do I suddenly feel so pitiful when I look at this group of children? They don't have anything that ordinary children can have, murmured a teacher. Another person laughed and said, when you see them live for tens of thousands of years, you won't feel so pitiful anymore. You're just arguing. How dare you say that each of them has tens of thousands of years to live? At present they are still pitiful after all. No matter how talented they are and how good their cultivation is, they are still children after all, and they are already facing death. The previous teacher sighed and said, I just heard that there was an ordinary child upstairs who was still playing games all night. His body is so weak that I can't even read it. Yeah, it's better to read a novel. Another teacher said, there's a person called Wind Conquers the World who wrote it quite well. He's recognized as the world's best. Recognized as the world's best? Is that for real? I'll go take a look when I have time and join a few Golden Alliance or something. I'm not short of money. I've been watching them play for the past 3 days. Other than feeling sorry for them, I also feel that it's quite enjoyable. It's as if I've played with them once. One of the teachers was reminiscing. He touched his chin and said, when I have time, I'll go sit on that wooden horse too. It seems that it's quite interesting. Shda. After receiving a large wave of rolling eyes, everyone went back to their rooms to rest. The next morning, the first division's venue had been renovated and the arena was erected high. Red decorations hung on all sides. The battle between the champion and the runner-up was about to begin. The battle between the champion and the runner-up was a best-of-7 system. 6 people would fight for 7 rounds. The first 4 rounds could not have the same person. In other words, one person was not allowed to defeat the entire field. One powerhouse was not allowed to carry a team, and even win the championship. At the same time, the candidates for the first 4 rounds had to be planned and submitted before the first person appeared. The order could not be changed. No one was allowed to change the person. Violators would be disqualified. In the last 3 rounds they could send their own people. However, even in the last 3 rounds, one person could only fight at most 2 rounds. All the high martial arts teachers surrounded the entire arena. They wanted to get a closer look at the real battle between the geniuses. Whether it was Water City No. 1 High School or Phoenix City No. 2 High School, they were the best of the best. It could be said that even the weakest person in these 2 teams, with the aptitude of astral souls, would be able to enter the list of seeded contestants of the 3 high martial arts schools. Relatively speaking, Phoenix City No. 2 High School was more popular. The captain Zua Xiaoduo was known as Brother Crotch Kick. The vice-captain Li Chenglong was popular. The dream technique Li Changming became famous in one battle. Yu Moyan was silent and sharp. Long Yuxing was outstanding and a hero among women. The most important point was that Water City No. 1 High School had once fought Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School and lost on the spot. However, Phoenix City No. 2 High School defeated Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School in its strongest state. This gave people a feeling that Water City No. 1 High School was most likely not the opponent of Phoenix City No. 2 High School. Even the members of Water City No. 1 High School had this thought. The curtain opened. The two teams entered the arena. For a time the audience cheered loudly, one after another, endlessly. Countless long guns, short guns, and flashing lights made Swordsmanship blind. In an instant he had a subtle feeling that he had become a big star. He almost wanted to shake his butt on the stage and sing a song. On the opposite side, the 6 people from Water City No. 1 High School were all dressed in snow-white clothes. A sharp aura came from them. The 12 people stood facing each other from a distance. Swordsmanship and Zhou Yunqing, the captain of Water City No. 1 High School, took a step forward together. The others did not move. I am the captain, Swordsmanship. This is our vice-captain, Li Chenglong. This is Long Yusheng, Wan Li Xiu, Li Changming, and Yu Moyan. Swordsmanship introduced them one by one with perfect articulation. There was a loud shout in the stands, "Brother Iron and Steel is mighty." Swordsmanship frowned, glanced at Li Chenglong fiercely, and said angrily, "Swollen, go back and wait for me." Li Chenglong felt wronged. "What did I do to you? You stole my limelight." Swordsmanship said bitterly, "I am the captain, but you didn't call my name or Iron Fist, young master. Who will take the blame if not you?" Li Chenglong. On the opposite side, Zhou Yunqing showed a smile on his face. "Captain Zwa, you don't have to deliberately remind us like this. We won't remember your name, Iron Fist, young master." Zhou Yunqing couldn't help but laugh in his heart. At this time, you still want to use Iron Fist, young master, to fool people. Do you want us to think that you are really unparalleled? Don't worry, we will never be fooled. No matter who picks you, they won't fight with you. They will just admit defeat. I am the captain of Water City's first squadron, Zhou Yunqing. This is our vice-captain, Yan Kuanglei. This is Fang Juexiao, this is Ling Feishua, this is Yu Yan and the last one is Pai Bao. Zhou Yunqing introduced the last person, and obviously paused. Just as Swordsmanship and the others were puzzled, they finally heard the last person's name. All 6 of them widened their eyes at the same time. Pai Bao. This name. Really? Sounds good. Swordsmanship burst out laughing. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but he really couldn't help it. Listening to the first 5 names, they sounded good, poetic, and imposing. However, when he heard the last name, he really didn't know what to do, and suddenly lost his composure. "Captain Zhou, you almost sprained my waist with your sudden coquettishness." Swordsmanship shook his head and sighed. Then he said to Pai Bao, "Brother Pai, I am really not laughing at you. We are heroes, and we never use our names to make fun of you." Pai Bao's wrinkled face trembled, and his 4 wrinkles bloomed into a chrysanthemum-like smile. He said, "It's okay, it's okay. I am used to it since I was young." Cough, cough. This smile almost made Swordsmanship lose his soul. It didn't look like a chrysanthemum at all, but it really did look like one. Cough, cough. The monthly ticket. The recommendation ticket. Chapter 353. The introductions were over. The 2 captains returned to their respective teams. The 12 of them saluted to each other at the same time. In Shuicheng No. 1 Middle School, everyone was dressed in white. They were taller than snow, and their figures were tall and straight. Well, except for the last person, the first 5 people were handsome men and beautiful women, forming a beautiful scenery. The moment they bowed at the same time, there was an inexplicable cold and sharp chi, like a snow mountain suddenly lowering its head. Their momentum was amazing. As for Phoenix City No. 2 High School, when they bowed, the big words, Phoenix City No. 2 High School, were revealed behind the 6 people. It was especially eye-catching. It was so tacky. This strong contrast made the teachers of the high school who were watching the battle behind Swordsmanship's team almost laugh out loud. "Have you drafted the list of participants?" Ding Xilan asked. The referees of this competition were almost all familiar people. They were from the 3 high schools and 6 teachers. Yes, they were right. The 6 referees were all from the 3 high schools. The other schools didn't even get a spot. Ma Zhangxi, who was standing at the side, grimaced from time to time. His face was full of indignation. Ordinary high school students didn't have human rights. Ma Zhangxi wanted to shout, but he didn't dare to. He was afraid that he would be beaten. Ma Lao San knew better than to fight when the odds were against me. It's done, it's done. It's done a long time ago. Zhou Xiaoduo happily walked over and handed over his team's name list. He said sweetly, teachers, why do you all look so familiar? Don't tell me you've been working overtime for the past few days? Take care of your body. It's really too tiring. Ding Xiulan said with a loving face, it's rare for you to be so considerate. Look, I've prepared food. As she spoke, she took out a bag of melon seeds and asked, do you want to eat? Zhou Xiaoduo laughed dryly. I don't dare to eat. When you're done, I'll treat you, Ding Xiulan said. Zhang Xiaofei coughed. Teacher Ding, mind your image. Immediately after, he said in an amiable tone, Zhou Xiaoduo, you can do it. Zhou Xiaoduo nodded repeatedly with a simple and honest look on his face. He smiled and said, Teacher Zhang, you look much better today than you did a few days ago. Zhang Xiaofei was overjoyed and said, really? You even know how to read people's complexion? Zhou Xiaoduo said, I know a little. Actually, I'm best at reading faces. With your physiognomy, you're destined to be famous in the future. You have a good physiognomy. Zhang Xiaofei's eyes narrowed, and his heart was bursting with joy. Is that so? Ha ha, if it's possible, let me take a good look. My name shakes the world, is it because I took in a good student? On the other side, Cui Shangyan's face was full of dissatisfaction. Teacher Zhan, is this the time to chat? Pay attention to your manners. Zhou Xiaoduo said obediently, hello Teacher Cui. Thank you for your hard work. Cui Shangyan smiled like a flower. Xiaoduo, did you sleep well last night? I heard that he went to the amusement park for the past few days. When you come to Shangjing, I'll take you to the amusement park there. It's much bigger than here. You'll definitely be able to enjoy yourself. Zhou Xiaoduo's eyes lit up. Really? Of course it's true. Cui Shangyan introduced excitedly. Let me tell you, the amusement park in Shangjing inside. Just as he was about to give an example to encourage Zhou Xiaoduo's interest, he remembered that he had never been to an amusement park before. He was completely ignorant about the facilities there, so it was hard for him to say anything. He forcefully changed the topic and said, it's really fun inside. In the bar there are many beautiful ladies. Their clothes. On the side, Ding Xiulan and Zhang Xiaofei roared at the same time. Cui Shangyan, you shameless person. Are you trying to teach your child bad things? Cough cough. Cui Shangyan didn't care at all and just smiled. My words were like farts, so why should I care? So what if I don't want Bai Lian? He continued to smile and said, little duo, as long as you really come, I will take you wherever you want to go. Whatever you want to play, I will take you to play. Zhang Xiaofei looked up and sighed. He's really like a girl. The first time he's so shy and unwilling, but after the first time he doesn't care anymore. This Cui Shangyan. Ding Xiulan raised her eyebrows and said angrily, Zhang Xiaofei. What do you mean? Cui Shangyan's shamelessness is his own business. What does it have to do with a girl? If you don't know how to speak, then shut your stinky mouth. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at them. I'm just here to flatter them. I don't mean anything else. Why did they start fighting? The smell of gunpowder was getting stronger. Teacher, I'll go back and prepare for the competition. He slipped away, wiping his sweat on the way. That place was really too dangerous. Yes, good luck. The 5 judges said together. Zhou Xiaoduo handed in the name list. It took a full 10 minutes. After a few rounds of greetings, Zhou Yunqing stood at the side and waited. He was not anxious at all. His expression did not change at all. Zhou Xiaoduo could not help but praise him in his heart. Don't underestimate the greetings before the competition. Politeness, etiquette, respect, chatting. As long as the teacher responded, no matter if it was 1 sentence or 2, the other team students would be ignored. And out of respect for the teacher who was speaking, the other teachers would not interrupt at this time. The other team could only awkwardly stand at the side and wait under the watchful eyes of everyone. Don't underestimate this short period of time. It was a huge blow to a person's psyche. Countless people were watching. This was a live broadcast. I'm just going to stand here like an idiot? How embarrassing. First he felt disgusted. Why are you so troublesome, Zhou Xiaoduo? Are you deliberately trying to intimidate me? Aren't you just trying to create an opportunity to ignore me by talking over there? Then he became more and more angry. His mouth is so sweet. What should I do? Should I greet him? Would it have the opposite effect of making a fool of himself? But if I don't greet him, will the teacher think of me? If I don't greet him, I'll be nervous. Will the teacher be dissatisfied with me? If I greet him, I'll be even more annoyed. Why should I imitate him? And the teacher's reaction after greeting him would trigger countless thoughts. If he was enthusiastic, it would be fine. If he was indifferent or ignored him, he would start to think again. And so on. I won't go into detail. And all of this should not have happened. Everyone went up together, handed in the name list, and came back immediately. There was no need to think about anything. But because of Wuxia's words, it triggered all of this. It was a pressure even for adults, let alone a group of half-grown children. In the previous few matches, Wuxia's opponents were almost all affected. And this move was an open and above-board trick. I can lower my face, can you? Even if you can, I'll be the first to take advantage of you. Even if you beat me to it, I can still say it better than you. When did Master Zhou care about his face? As long as he could defeat his opponent, he would spare no effort. But the captain of Shui City First High School was not affected at all. He just stood there and waited calmly. There was no fluctuation in his heart at all. This was the first time that Wuxia's trick had failed. Teacher, this is our name list. Please take a look. Zhou Yunqing strode forward with his head held high and handed over the name list with both hands. Okay. Ding Xiulan took it. Yunqing, you can do it. Thank you, teacher. Zhou Yunqing bowed and walked back. Zuo stood in front of his team and looked at Zhou Yunqing. He silently commented in his heart, I'm an old silver. He's as steady as an old dog. Damn it, I've met my opponent today. I won't fall in the final, right? After handing over the name list, both sides saluted each other and gave each other the greatest respect. Then they returned to their seats and sat down, waiting for the battle to begin. Ding Xiulan stood up solemnly and said in a serious voice, the name list of the two teams is already in my hands. And this name list is not allowed to be changed. Ding Xiulan smiled. Now, it's up to the captains and vice-captains of the two teams to arrange their troops. Next, I announce that the first player from Phoenix City First High School is Vice-Captain Li Chenglong. Shui City First High School's candidate is Vice-Captain Yan Kuanglei. Ding Xiulan glanced at the name list for the second time. Her eyes flashed with surprise. She smiled and said, the lineups of the two teams are almost the same. For the first battle, they didn't send out their strongest captains. Instead, they sent out their second strongest vice-captains. It seems that they both want their vice-captains to take the first round and win. Unfortunately, their thoughts are the same, and their vice-captains met with each other. Next, let's see who will win and who will be the stronger one. The candidates for the first round indeed caused an uproar. Zuo and Zhou Yunqing also looked at each other thoughtfully. The two vice-captains stood out at the same time. However, Yan Kuanglei's momentum was like a glass of water compared to Li Chenglong's. The entire stands and the audience were a sea of people. Red flags fluttered, and they roared and cheered in unison. They were all Li Chenglong's fans. Brother Iron. Come on. Brother Iron. Victory. On the internet, the people who were watching the live broadcast spontaneously established a Iron God sect. This sect had only been established for a few days, but the number of people who joined had already exceeded the 10 million mark. It became a mudslide on the internet. Brother Iron, come on. Sect leader. Domineering. Sect leader is mighty, unifying the Jianghu. What beauty. Make her cry with one punch. Iron God sect, I'm lonely. Bachelor's kennel, 7 seas and 5 lakes. Ow 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 ow, woof 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 woof. Sect leader. Why did you hit a man this time? Change to another one. Sect leader. Hit the little sister in the next battle. In the arena, shouts and whistles pierced through the clouds and fog. On the internet, words and phrases formed a tsunami. Iron God sect, Brother Iron Li Chenglong, was the well-deserved sect leader that everyone had high hopes for. When the sect leader came out to fight, a group of followers cheered at the top of their lungs. This group of people were all single dogs. Every day they were bootlickers but couldn't lick anything. They were the kind that got sick of eating dog food. Finally, they saw a brother iron who could grab a beauty and run wild. They immediately had a backbone. One by one they waved their flags and shouted, shaking their heads and wagging their tails. At this moment, the Iron God sect's momentum was earth-shattering. Chapter 354. At this moment, Li Chenglong felt like he was missing a pair of sunglasses. Even his footsteps seemed to be in slow motion, intentionally or unintentionally. He walked out in a majestic and handsome slow-motion manner step by step. It was really as if he was the god of gamblers entering the scene. However, his opponent did not intend to give him the chance to continue acting cool. He roared and rushed forward. The next moment, Li Chenglong smiled treacherously. His body suddenly sped up and with a spin, 3 Li Chenglong appeared. One swung his fist, one drew his sword and one kicked. It was Qin Fangyang's 5-direction sword mantra that Li Chenglong had learned and used. Before Yan Kuanglei blinked, he was still looking at his opponent's slow-motion performance amidst the cheers of his fans. Who would have thought that the situation would turn out like this in the blink of an eye? Fortunately, he had prepared himself mentally. The sword in his hand met the incoming sword and he leaned to the side to avoid the punch aimed at his nose. However, he did not manage to avoid the kick. He quickly put his legs together and twisted his buttocks. The kick that was supposed to land on his crotch landed heavily on Yan Kuanglei's buttocks. With a muffled bang, this kick sent Yan Kuanglei tumbling backwards. As the vice-captain, how could Li Chenglong make the mistake of losing focus in the face of an enemy? All the slow-motion moves earlier were just to bait the opponent into attacking and not being able to defend well. After succeeding in one move, Li Chenglong followed up with another attack. He punched, kicked, and swung his sword. His attacks were tyrannical and smooth. He was like a single dog that had left its nest. Although Li Chenglong had been taught the 5-direction sword mantra by Qin Fangyang and had some small achievements, this move required a lot of energy. With Li Chenglong's current cultivation level, he could only use it once and could not sustain it for a long time. However, after launching this move, not only was it unexpected, but they also gained the overwhelming advantage of 3 against 1. In an instant they gained an overwhelming advantage. It was worth it. Yan Kuanglei's cultivation was roughly on par with Li Chenglong's. However, he had lost the upper hand right from the start and had fallen into a passive state. Li Chenglong did not have any intention of slowing down. His attacks became more and more concentrated like a storm of attacks. Kill him while he's down. Yan Kuanglei was forced to retreat continuously. Suddenly he let out an explosive roar. It was as if he didn't care about his life anymore as he charged out without a care for anything else. Immediately after he charged forward, risking Li Chenglong's punches and kicks in order to regain some of the initiative. Otherwise, if he continued to be suppressed like this, he would definitely lose without any room for a comeback. When Li Chenglong saw this, he let out a loud roar and used all his strength. The sword in his hand was like a huge saber, and he used it to cleave a mountain. He used all his strength to meet the attack head-on. He remembered Wuxia's warning, the opponent's sword, once it is out, there is no turning back. The most important thing is the momentum. You don't have as many tricks as I do. If you allow the opponent to unleash his sword aura, even if you can drag this battle out, you will still lose. When it comes to dealing with this kind of momentum, other than suppressing the opponent's attack from the start and taking the initiative, you also have to suppress the opponent's momentum. Even if the opponent uses a move that will injure both sides and force you to switch from offense to defense, you have to use a move that is even more tyrannical. You have to suppress the opponent and completely suppress the opponent's momentum. The key to this battle is to take the initiative at all times. No matter what, you can't let the opponent turn the situation back into a tie. Once you have the upper hand but lose, it will be your loss. And now Li Chenglong was carrying out Wuxia's words. You want me to give you a step back by charging at me? You think I won't dare to fight you with my life just because I have the upper hand? What a joke. You dare to fight me with your life, but do you think I don't dare to fight you with my life? With a loud clang, the two swords collided with each other in a crazy manner. With a bang, both swords shattered and turned into dust. Yan Kuanglei had poured all of his cultivation into this sword. He couldn't hold back his momentum, so he rushed forward again. Li Chenglong had also poured all of his cultivation into this sword. Seeing that Yan Kuanglei had no intention of retreating, he also rushed forward madly without dodging. Boom boom boom. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had already punched each other 17 or 18 times. Then, under the inertia of rushing forward, the two heads steeled their hearts and lowered their heads. The two heads used a posture similar to that of a bull's horn and collided with each other. Bang! It was a solid collision. This collision caused everyone's heart to skip a beat. It was too loud. Then a strange scene appeared on the stage. The two of them suffered from each other's huge impact and fell back together. Then Yan Kuanglei got up as if he was drunk and swayed in slow motion. Li Chenglong's situation was similar. He got up crookedly and his eyes became cross-eyed. Using a posture similar to that of a drunkard, he slowly twisted and turned on the stage. Puff! Ding Xiulan and the others spat out a mouthful of tea. These two idiots had actually knocked each other unconscious. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Yunqing's teams covered their faces with both hands. They really didn't dare to watch. On the stage, the two cross-eyed men's minds were full of stars. They spun around the stage like a drunkard and then fell down again. Sitting on the ground, they gasped for breath. Then they didn't forget to focus their eyes and look around for their opponents. It was at this moment that blood spurted out from the top of their heads at almost the same time with a pew sound. On the internet, thousands of Iron God sect disciples were collectively dumbfounded. Sect Master! Sect Master, hold on! Sect Master's cross-eyed eyes are so cute, just like a husky. Sect Master! Sect Master is mighty, knocking over the opponent with one blow. Zhou Xiaoduo took the lead and stood up. This match ends with a draw. Captain Zhou, do you have any objections? Zhou Yunqing hesitated and said, our chances of winning this match are less than 40%. If Captain Zhou can also end with a draw, we naturally have no objections. But we're taking advantage of you. Zhou Xiaoduo said, that's fine. Look at these two idiots. They'll need at least an hour to recover. Can we afford to wait? Zhou Yunqing laughed and said straightforwardly, then we'll take advantage of them and end with a draw. Then, one person went up and dragged back the two cross-eyed men who were still slacking around. While being dragged away, the two of them bared their fangs and brandished their claws, shouting incoherently, hit, 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 da-da-da. Whether it was on the stands or on the internet, laughter shook the sky. Sect Master is so cute. So Sect Master is not only ruthless to women, but also to men. It seems like he's even ruthless to himself. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. I just ate a mouthful of rice, but it all came out of my nostrils. What's your rice? The noodles I just ate are still hanging from my nostrils. You're too silly. You two idiots. Silly +1. Long live Sect Master Silly. I must keep the recording of this match well. If I'm unhappy in the future, I'll watch it again. It's so fun. It's enough for me to use for a lifetime. The first match ended with a draw. This result was more or less beyond everyone's expectations. Strictly speaking, Li Chenglong had the advantage from the beginning of the match. He had the upper hand and his strategy and tactics were excellent. He didn't give his opponent any chance to turn the situation around. Unfortunately, his opponent was also a ruthless person. At the most critical moment he headbutted Li Chenglong. At that moment, Li Chenglong's hands and feet were exhausted. If he had dodged, he could have dodged, but he would have lost the initiative. The situation was reversed, so he simply headbutted Yan Kuanglei's head. Because of this, both of them fell into a cross-eyed state. Therefore, to a large extent, this draw was won by Yan Kuanglei himself. Zhou Xiaoduo had a good impression of such a tough guy. Therefore, he didn't care about the slight difference and took the initiative to propose a draw. After Li Chenglong and Yan Kuanglei were dragged back, they were still rolling their eyes and shaking their heads. They even wanted to crawl around on the ground. The pills had been fed, the cold water had been poured on their heads, and even the medicinal liquid had been drunk. However, they were still in a muddled state. Yu Moyan simply put Li Chenglong on the ground and sat on Li Chenglong's butt, forcefully suppressing. On the other side, when they saw that this method was good, they followed suit and sat on Vice Captain Yan Kuanglei's butt. When Ding Xiulan came out to announce the second match, She still couldn't help but smile. This didn't seem like a battle, but more like a crosstalk performance. The second match is between Phoenix City's second high school, Long Yuxing, and Water City's first high school, Ling Feishuo. Long Yuxing held his sword and came out. On the other side, Ling Feishuo's white clothes were like snow, and her long sword was like frost. Once she came out of the formation, she used the move of body and sword as one. Sword of no return. Before she came out of the formation, the sword's momentum was already formed. Dodge, block, retreat. All of these would only make her fall into a disadvantage. A fierce look flashed in Long Yuxing's eyes. His body tilted, and he turned into a white light with his sword. His long sword moved like a rainbow piercing the sun, and flew towards Ling Feishuo's heart. Using sword against sword, using attack against attack. Zhou Yunqing and the other high martial arts teachers on the stage were all stunned. Ling Feishuo's sword move could be said to be a routine, and it was one of the moves of Sword of No Return. However, Long Yuxing's move was no longer a routine move, but a battle formation killing technique. In a battle formation killing, there was no victory or defeat, only life and death. This move also came from Qin Fangyang's biting cold heart of the sword. Killing sword of life and death, the sword cuts life and death. Your sword doesn't return? I Jian Wuhui. Your sword doesn't return. I have no regrets in life and death. Both sides used the move of body and sword as one. The speed of their attacks was also extremely fast. As the saying goes, in a battle between experts, victory or defeat was decided in an instant. This sentence was verified here. From the moment Ding Xiulan announced the start of the second match, the winner and loser were decided in less than 3 seconds. Puff puff. Ling Feishuo's sword pierced through Long Yuxing's lower abdomen, all the way to the hilt, revealing more than 2 feet of the bloody sword behind him. On the other hand, Long Yuxing's sword pierced through Ling Feishuo's chest, all the way to the hilt, revealing more than 2 feet of the sword behind him. At the most crucial moment, Long Yuxing's sword moved slightly to the side, revealing the vital point of the heart. However, this was a true battle of life and death. Chapter 355. On the field, off the field, on the viewing platform, everyone was stunned by this thunderous sword. Everyone could only feel their chests pounding, and they could clearly hear the sound of their hearts thumping. No one could make a sound for a moment. Only cold sweat dripped down from their foreheads. Over there. Zhou Yunqing jumped up from his seat and shouted, "Don't move. We admit defeat." Swishaoduo also jumped up as if his butt was on fire. "Don't move." Swishaoduo would not say anything about a draw this time, because this time, Long Yuxing showed mercy at the last moment. If not, Ling Feishuo would be a corpse now, and Long Yuxing was still alive. This was already the outcome of the battle. There was no room for excuses, and the reason why Zhou Yunqing admitted defeat was because of this. Now the two were still close to each other. Their swords were still stuck in each other's body. At this time, both of them still had a considerable amount of energy left. Just a slight movement of their wrists and a slight release of their true essence would cause irreparable damage. Their eyes met. Long Yuxing smiled faintly, and his right hand let go of the sword hilt. Ling Feishuo's face was cold, and her right hand also let go of her sword hilt. Admirable. The two almost spoke at the same time. Ding Xiulan flew over, and with an indescribable ingenious hand speed, she separated the two. Then she drew out their swords along the wound, carefully and swiftly. There was no hesitation in the process. At this time, the more hesitant it was, the easier it was to ruin things. As the two swords left the body, blood gushed out. Ding Xiulan was still quick to respond. First, she put the 2 elixirs into their mouths, and then she sprinkled the top-grade golden sword medicine. Then she took out 2 small bottles, one for each person, and poured it down. Then, with cold sweat on his forehead, he said, "These 2 kids. Why are they so violent? They directly decided the outcome of the battle with one move. This is a real life and death battle." Zhang Xiaofei sighed. There are countless accidents in the path of cultivation. Even if you have the elixir of immortality in your hands, if you don't have the opportunity, you can only watch death descend upon you. Fortunately, Long Yuxing's sword tip was slightly off at the last moment. Otherwise, Zhang Xiaofei shook his head and didn't continue. But everyone understood what he meant. Wan Lixio was so scared that her whole body trembled. She carried Long Yuxing back. Her small face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Swishaoduo shook his head and said, somewhat speechlessly, Xiao I've already checked for you. You're not destined to be a widow in this lifetime. Don't worry. When the people around heard this, they thought, what the fuck? Although this kid is saying nice things, why are his words so unpleasant? However, to everyone's surprise, when Wan Lixio heard this, her eyes actually lit up. She said excitedly, really? Swishaoduo shrugged. You don't believe me? When have I ever lied to you? Even if Long Yuxing lied to you, I wouldn't lie to you, right? Yes, yes. Wan Lixio nodded repeatedly. Her mood immediately stabilized a lot. Several high martial arts teachers looked at Wan Lixio in confusion. Wan Lixio was actually coaxed by Zhuxiaoduo's unpleasant words. They could not help but look at each other. I won't have the life of a widow in this life. These words were actually used to comfort people? This was the first fucking time they heard it. And what did he mean by, even if Long Yuxing lied to you, I wouldn't lie to you? Her boyfriend was just nearby, and had just been seriously injured. How could you say that? Were you really not here to poach her? Both of them were carried back. There were only 2 pools of blood left in the arena. It was a shocking sight. Phoenix City High School number 2. 1 win and 1 draw. Based on the current situation, they had the advantage and had the upper hand. The third round, Phoenix City High School number 2, Li Zhongming. Water City High School, Yuan. When they heard the names of their opponents, everyone's spirits were lifted. However, they did not know how the 2 of them would fight in this round. Would they see that mysterious and unpredictable Great Dream Divine technique again? For the first time, Li Zhongming actually took out a long iron rod from his space ring. As he strode out, he casually swung the iron rod and a huge flower appeared. It was truly a spectacular sight and was pleasing to the eye. Dong! Li Zhongming propped the iron rod on the ground and said majestically, please. How could the crowd not understand? This guy was obviously not going to use the Great Dream Divine technique. He was going to use pure strength to win. Yu Yan was a petite and beautiful woman. She had a delicate figure and a delicate face. Paired with her snow-white clothes, she looked really lovely, making me feel pity for her. In her hand there was a sharp sword. Please! The sword flashed and Li Zhongming's rod was already whistling. The battle between the 2 of them was intense. They exchanged hundreds of moves in one breath, but there was no clear winner. It was hard to tell who was better. Yu Yan looked petite, but her toughness was unusually strong. Her swordsmanship was not like Yan Kuanglei and Ling Feishue's, where the sword was unstoppable. Instead, it was extremely soft and flexible. However, it was also different from Zhuxiaoduo's drizzle swordsmanship. Her swordsmanship was dense and focused on offense. Her swordsmanship was more suitable for a woman's soft and delicate style. After 500 moves, Li Zhongming gradually felt that his strength was running out. He could not help but panic and thought to himself, am I going to lose twice in a row? As the thought flashed through his mind, he suddenly swung his long rod 17 to 18 times. Then, he quickly turned around and threw the long rod in his hand in a spinning manner. His target was Yu Yan. Then he raised his hands. Yu Yan had already sensed that Li Zhongming's attacks were gradually slowing down. She thought that Li Zhongming's strength was running out. Her strategy of using softness to defeat strength was working. However, she did not expect an unforeseen event to happen. First, there was a round of fierce attacks. Although it was not impossible to deal with, it temporarily limited her to one spot. Then there was another rod that flew out of his hand. However, this was not a problem for Yu Yan. She still managed to dodge it. However, just as she was dodging, Li Zhongming casually threw 4 or 5 white gas at Yu Yan face. Yu Yan tried her best to hold her breath. However, the white gas was colorless and odorless. It did not enter the body through breathing. Instead, it entered the body in a silent way. Seeing that Li Zhongming turned around and ran, Yu Yan was enraged. She changed from defense to offense and quickly chased after him. However, just as she jumped up, She felt dizzy and an irresistible drowsiness swept over her. On the other side, Li Zhongming was also in a wobbly state. However, he continued to throw out 2 more white gas. Obviously, he was taking precautions. Then he fell to the ground and fell into a deep sleep. Yin-er was getting more and more dizzy. Finally, she could not hold on any longer and fell to the ground. Then, her eyes rolled back. She slowly lay down on the ground and fell into a sweet sleep. Everyone was speechless. This kind of operation that we don't understand is happening again. The great dream divine art was performing again. On the field, Li Zhongming was sleeping soundly. Yin-er's breathing was light and gentle. She slept like a lady. After a long time, there was no intense battle like the one between Li Zhongming and Shimen Daqing. After a while, the smile on Li Zhongming's face turned strange. Yin-er's face was also flushed red, as if she was very shy. After a long time, Yin-er screamed and woke up. Li Zhongming, who was opposite her, also opened his eyes at the same time. His face was full of embarrassment. Yin-er jumped up and pointed at Li Zhongming with a red face. You pervert. How could you do that? Li Zhongming was embarrassed. Cough, cough, cough. That was not that. Yin-er's face was red and she stomped her feet. Suddenly, she covered her face and ran back. Li Zhongming had a silly smile on his face and did not speak for a long time. Everyone, including the referee, had a look of curiosity on their faces. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. Zhou Yunqing looked at Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoduo looked at Zhou Yunqing and smiled bitterly at the same time. How was this going to be settled? At that moment, no one knew how to settle the score. After all, they were not the ones involved. Who knew what kind of dream they had? The internet was in an uproar. What do you think Li Zhongming, this perverted fat single dog, did to the girl in his dream? I think that when the girl woke up and called him a pervert, I think it's not that simple. I don't need you to say it's not simple. Based on my experience as a single dog, this kid must have her in her dream. With my 5th limb, I personally agree with this deduction. This kid's smile is too perverted. He actually used his divine art to make the girl have a wet dream. What a bitch. I wonder what it was like in the dream. Did he really take it off? Tis. One look and I know you're a pure single dog. In a dream, do you know the flow of time in a dream? Maybe in the dream, you've already given birth to a few children and spent your entire life with them. You're right. Once I dreamt that I spent a few decades in my dream. It was so comfortable, but I can't remember the details. Anyway, it was comfortable. Of course it's comfortable in a sweet dream. If you continuously enter the bridal chamber in your dream, how could it not be comfortable? TSK. Chest lift, what a wonderful idea. How is this considered victory or defeat? The referees were also confused. Zhou Xiaoduo asked loudly, Li Zhongming, tell me honestly, what did you do to her in your dream? Li Zhongming stuttered with an embarrassed look on his face. No, nothing. Nothing. Why did she run away with a red face? She even called you a pervert? Zhou Xiaoduo was full of righteousness and said sternly, tell me honestly. Otherwise, even if you're in the arena now and your opponent is no longer in the arena, I still can't declare you the winner. Zhou Yunqing suddenly raised her head and looked at Zhou Xiaoduo. Zhou Xiaoduo looked back calmly, his eyes as calm as water. Zhou Yunqing narrowed her eyes and said, Captain Zhou, this concerns a woman's reputation. You can't take it lightly. Zhou Xiaoduo said calmly, it's just a dream. How can it be real? Besides, it's a martial arts competition in the arena. It's all about skills. Chapter 356. But Li Zhongming's great dream divine technique can obviously control dreams. Zhou Yunqing's eyes were sharp. That's Li Zhongming's ability. And it's also a battle tactic. Zhou Xiaoduo was still indifferent. But in the end, it's still a dream. Even if it's a dream, you used a dream to humiliate a girl. What kind of battle tactic is that? Zhou Yunqing asked sharply. Zhou Xiaoduo smiled faintly. First, other than the two of them, no one knows what happened in the dream. Second, in this arena, there's only victory and defeat. There's no distinction between men and women. I've never thought that girls should be given preferential treatment in this arena. Third, if humiliating a girl can make her admit defeat and let us win, then I'll answer you directly. Then I can give you a clear answer. Yes, this is the way to fight. Shuo raised his head and puffed out his chest. He said loudly, and the most important fourth point. I've never explicitly asked for Li Zhongming to win. But the fact is, your team members were no longer in the arena before the outcome was decided. This is an ironclad fact. Even if I insist that we won this round, I can still say that I'm in the right. But I didn't. This is already giving you leeway. Fifth, the reason why I emphasize this point is to prevent you from using your reputation to force Li Zhongming to admit defeat. And you did mention the two words reputation later. So I'm telling you clearly that this path won't work. Even if Li Zhongming admits defeat because he's embarrassed as the team leader, I won't admit defeat. If you insist on using reputation to force Li Zhongming to admit defeat, I won't accept it. Shuo faced everyone and said, this is an arena, and also a battlefield. In the arena, there's only one opponent. In the battlefield, there's only one enemy. On the opposite side, Zhou Yunqing's face was ashen. Shuo's eyes were burning. He didn't back down at all. His aura was overwhelming. After a long time, Zhou Yunqing said softly, I shouldn't have talked about gender. The arena is the arena. This part is because my thinking is biased. I think that girls should be given preferential treatment. For this, I sincerely apologize. However, the judges will have to decide the outcome of the match. Just like how captains were refused to admit defeat, I, Zhou Yunqing, also don't think that my team members have lost. Zhou Yunqing looked at Shuo. Both of them stared at each other, neither willing to back down. The two captains were unwilling to admit defeat, but they didn't have any concrete evidence to prove that they had won and convince everyone. The referees discussed for a while before Ding Xiulan made the decision. This match ends in a draw. Do you have any objections? Shuo beamed with delight. Teachers, your eyes are indeed sharp. You were able to come up with a reasonable judgment in an instant. This student is impressed and has no objections. Actually, it doesn't matter. It's just that Captain Zhou has been a little conflicted about winning or losing. Haha, it's really not a big deal. Even if we lose this match, it doesn't matter. We can just fight back. All in all teachers have worked hard. No matter how well-mannered Zhou Yunqing was, she was still angered by him. Who was the one who was conflicted about winning or losing? However, in front of so many people, Zhou Yunqing had to take care of his face and demeanor. How could he quarrel with Shuo? He could only swallow his anger and cup his hands. Teacher's judgment is fair, we have no objections. She glanced at Shuo with a frown. For the first time, she felt that it wasn't easy to deal with this guy, even if she had mentally prepared herself. Zhou Yunqing was a square person. His personality was completely different from Shuo's. She simply couldn't keep up with Shuo's thoughts. However, Zhou Yunqing's Fangzheng was a real Fangzheng. Therefore, he would always choose to be himself. He wouldn't keep tangling with Shuo. Even if he felt a little resentful, he would quickly get over it. Shuo was convinced by such a person from the bottom of his heart. He actually couldn't anger him. Master Zhuo felt very defeated, right? I didn't act like a hooligan. Li Zhongming was so angry that his face turned red. I didn't act like a hooligan. Sai, that's not important. Shuo comforted him. Who asked you to drag a girl to sleep with you? That sentence was full of ambiguity. On the opposite side, Yu Yan'er screamed Shuo. Shuo laughed out loud. However, there was a meaningful look in his eyes. Then, he patted Li Zhongming's shoulder. His words directly diverted this matter to the highest heavens. Since it was a draw, nothing else mattered anymore. Of course, if someone wanted to argue about it, they could argue about it. After interacting with each other for so long, Shuo had absolute faith in Li Zhongming's character. Besides, if Li Zhongming really wanted to act like a hooligan, why would he do it in front of a live broadcast? This was simply impossible. Shuo didn't want to complicate things. The fourth round. Phoenix City No. 2 High School's candidate is Shuo. Water City No. 1 High School's candidate is Pai Bao. Ding Xiulan announced loudly. Swishow Duo laughed out loud as he walked onto the stage. Suddenly the entire internet was in an uproar. The King of Swords is here. Oh! Roar! My king is mighty. My king, kick his crotch. Long live the king. Shda. After Swishow Duo won a few rounds in a row, he received a new nickname on the internet. King of Swords. The name sounded really domineering. Of course, it started off as crotch-kicking king. However, many people felt that it was indecent and changed it to cheap king. However, there were also people who suggested that the king's name shouldn't be so straightforward, thus, it became the ultimate King of Swords. Just as Swishow Duo stood still, Pai Bao walked out with a frown on his face and said, I admit defeat. The King of Swords, who was posing, almost spat out his saliva. This is the finals, how can you admit defeat just like that? Are you kidding me? He didn't know that after his fight with Lan Bingrui, Water City No. 1 High School came to a consensus. Except for Zhou Yunqing, no matter who went up against Swishow Duo, they had to admit defeat immediately. They didn't want to be beaten up. Moreover, they had to lose in an extremely aggrieved manner. It might even affect their martial arts heart. The loss outweighed the gain. Not to mention it was too dangerous to fight against Swishow Duo. Those who didn't know the truth could still watch the show. However, everyone was an expert. What was the point of watching the show? The flaming sun scripture that Swishow Duo showed at the end could turn someone into a roasted suckling pig with one palm. What was the point of fighting? The fourth round, Phoenix City No. 2 High School wins. Currently, Phoenix City No. 2 High School. With 2 wins and 2 draws, No. 2 High School had the absolute upper hand. They only needed to win one more round to clinch the championship. The current situation of the two teams was that each of them had one person disabled. Long Yuxing on one side and Ling Feishua on the other. It was absolutely impossible for these two people to make a move during this period of time. As for the vice-captains of the two teams, they had almost recovered from their cross-eyed state. They both had the full combat strength of 5 people. Next was naturally the subsequent battle of the independent contestants. Zhou Yunqing couldn't help but frown. Every single one of his classmates were strong and talented, but, compared to Phoenix City's second senior high school, other than Swishow Duo, the rest of them were basically on par with each other, with a 50% chance of winning. In this case, there were too many subtle methods that could affect the outcome of the battle. Especially the other team's captain, Swishow Duo. Basically, every word he said would imperceptibly increase the psychological pressure on the other side. Sometimes, Zhou Yunqing really felt that his side was at a disadvantage. What did it mean to fight 7 rounds? That was too many, okay? The other side had Swishow Duo, the expert in playing with words. Almost every moment he opened his mouth to attack. Increasing the psychological pressure on our side increased their chances of winning by a little bit. This was really too much of a disadvantage. I'll go first in the independent battle. Zhou Yunqing said, if they send someone else, I can guarantee that I'll win the next round. But in the next round, the other side will definitely send Swishow Duo. If I try my best and take a chance, I might be able to disable Swishow Duo. After that, I'll have to rely on you guys to turn the tables. Even if I can fight Swishow Duo to the point where both of us are injured, I won't be able to fight anymore. If Swishow Duo directly enters the battle, then, in short, the rest of the battle will depend on you guys. Captain, you can do it. Zhou Yunqing took a deep breath and felt a surge of pride in his chest. He stood up. He had a feeling that Swishow Duo would definitely not give him a chance to turn the tables. He would definitely enter the battle personally and end the battle as soon as possible. As expected, Zhou Yunqing had just stood up when he saw Swishow Duo standing on the stage with his clothes fluttering in the wind. Zhou Yunqing unsheathed his long sword and flicked the blade with his finger. With a clang, the long sword roared and the sword's aura soared into the sky. He walked over step by step, his momentum rising with each step. Swishow Duo looked unprecedentedly dignified. He said lightly, Captain Zhou, listen to my advice. Don't use weapons when you fight with me. As soon as this sentence came out, at least millions of people were speechless. Even the 6 referees didn't know whether to laugh or cry. All the students of Watertown No. 1 Middle School focused on swords. You want them to not use weapons? Do you want them to tie their hands and feet and let you beat them? Or just admit defeat? However, those who were familiar with Zhuo Duo immediately had a thought. This guy must be scheming again. Zhou Yunqing frowned. Why? Zhuo Duo turned his wrist and the cat spirit sword appeared in his hand. Under the sunlight, the clear sword reflected thousands of rays of light, as if there was a small sun in his hand. He stretched out his hand and the sword in his hand. He stretched it out in the air and said lightly, "This sword of mine is called Cat Spirit. It is 3 feet long and weighs 8 ounces. This sword was given to my teacher by General Dongfang. Then my teacher gave it to me." Zhuo Duo said without blushing or panting, "This sword is said to be made by the only divine craftsman in the continent, Master Wu Kazhu, 17,000 years ago. It can cut iron like mud and cut through hair. It is soft when it meets hard and hard when it meets soft. Its sharpness is recognized as the best in the world." Zhuo Duo said seriously, "Captain Zhou, the famous sword in your hand might be a divine artifact, or at least it's your beloved item, a spirit treasure that can be used for dual cultivation. But in terms of sharpness, it can't be compared with my cat spirit. If it is damaged, wouldn't it be a great loss? That's why I advise you not to use weapons when you fight with me, or change to a sword. Even if it is damaged, you won't feel bad. You can avoid regret for life." Zhuo Duo said seriously, "Captain Zhou, please think twice. This is just a competition. I don't want to cause you regret for life." On and off the field, the referees, the audience, the netizens in the live broadcast, and the whole country were speechless. I write until I feel weak all over. Please give me a recommendation ticket. I go home to rest. I feel like I have a cold. I can't turn on the air conditioner. In this weather, I am ready to get a heat stroke at any time. Chapter 357. Zhuo words seemed to make sense. He seemed to have good intentions. From the beginning to the end, he was thinking for Zhou Yunqing. She confided in him wholeheartedly and earnestly, and her feelings were sincere. However, Zhou Yunqing's combat power was basically on the sword in his hand. You want him to fight with you barehanded without a sword? Or change out his god-level weapon, and use an ordinary weapon to fight against your god-level weapon? Isn't that asking for defeat? However, with these words, even if Zhou Yunqing continued to fight with his own sword, he would definitely pay extra attention to whether or not his sword was damaged. His mind would inevitably be distracted, and he would become more and more restrained. Before the battle even began, he had already lost by 30%. What was the point of fighting? It was you, Zhuo Duo, who used your mouth to win the finals. If Zhuo Duo hadn't said these words, Zhou Yunqing wouldn't have known anything. Even if his sword was damaged, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, with these words, this sword was given to him by Marshal Dongfang. This sword couldn't be ignored anymore. It actually had a foothold. I'm really speechless. Zhang Xiaofei frowned. Obviously, he was thinking hard. When did Marshal Dongfang mention this cat spirit sword? Ding Xiulan was also thinking. The cat spirit sword was recognized as the sharpest sword in the world. I don't think I've heard of it before. Logically speaking, such a sword should be famous all over the world. Chui Shangyan was deep in thought, wondering, is this for real? Could it be that I'm too ignorant? However, he directly said that it was Marshal Dongfang's sword in front of a national live broadcast. If it wasn't true, who would dare to say it? However, I heard that Zhuo original teacher, Qin Fangyang, was indeed under Marshal Dongfang's command in the past. They were quite close. Could it be that what Zhuo Duo said this time was actually true? At this moment, the one who felt the most uncomfortable was Zhou Yunqing. Although Zhou Yunqing had always been calm and upright, as the person directly involved, he also felt a toothache at this moment. If he could, he really wanted to grab Zhuo Duo and beat him up. No one is as despicable as you. Even if you're the Sword King, aren't you being too cheap? When he appeared, his habitual action of pulling out the sword and flicking it was immediately caught by the other party. From there, he deduced that the sword was his beloved item, which was why he said that. The students of Shuicheng No. 1 Middle School were famous for their swords. Naturally, they knew a lot about the famous swords on the continent. If there really was such a divine sword that was recognized as the sharpest sword on the continent, it was impossible that he didn't know its name and origin. Zhou Yunqing was almost certain that Sui Xiaoduo was talking nonsense when he said that it was a gift from General Dongfang, made by the best craftsman in the continent, and recognized as the sharpest weapon in the world. Even so, even though Zhou Yunqing knew that Sui Xiaoduo was using psychological warfare, Zhou Yunqing could not ignore it. What about the remaining 20%? What if it was true? His heart would ache for a few days if his sword were to be damaged. It was truly a beloved item. Even if the other party's sword was fake, the aura he had seen earlier was truly extraordinary. What if it was really sharp? What if it really damaged his treasured sword? But if he didn't use this sword, almost 80% of his kung fu would be gone. If he faced Sui Xiaoduo, he might not even be able to last 3 moves. After a moment of hesitation, Zhou Yunqing's complexion changed. At this moment, on the stage, a white-bearded teacher from Ancestral Dragon High School finally couldn't help but frown and say, "Zhou Yunqing, if this is the battlefield, the enemy has a peerless divine weapon in his hand. Would you give up the battle just to protect your beloved sword?" This sound was like the evening drum and morning bell slowly ringing. Zhou Yunqing's chaotic state of mind was suddenly cleansed, and he suddenly woke up. His eyes became clear again, and he said in a deep voice, "Thank you, teacher, for your warning." That's right, what this teacher used just now was a famous cultivation method. Severe warning. The other 5 judges all turned their heads, and their faces were full of shock. Especially teacher Ding Xiulan, who was also from Ancestral Dragon High School, looked at the referee teacher in disbelief. The whole audience was in an uproar. No matter how much Sui Xiaoduo talked and caused people to make mistakes, it was still a student competition, and it was the finals. In the finals, any way to destroy the opponent's confidence and morale was allowed by the rules, because scheming was a part of one's strength. But this teacher suddenly opened his mouth and enlightened him with a severe warning, which was tantamount to directly intervening to help the other side. This could be said to be a big taboo, which made the competition lose its fairness, and at the same time made the referee lose his neutral position. Sui Xiaoduo also felt a shock in his heart. Severe warning was helpful to Zhou Yunqing, because he was at a loss. When he woke up, it was like waking up from a dream, and his mind became more alert. But to Sui Xiaoduo it was harmful. His heart was even shaken because of this. It was as if he was in a peaceful state, but suddenly encountered an earthquake and he was in a trance. If he were to fight at this moment, his state of mind would definitely be unstable, and he would be flustered. He turned his head to look and laughed. "Teacher, your cultivation is really good. Even your student feels that his state of mind has been greatly improved." The white-bearded teacher frowned and said, "Sui Xiaoduo, you don't have to be dissatisfied. I know that you have a problem with me, and think that I have ruined your strategy, but as a person it's better to be upright. If you blindly rely on small tricks, even if you win, what's the point? The tricks you used are just small tricks, after all." The white-bearded teacher said in a sincere and heartfelt manner. Sui Xiaoduo smiled indifferently, and his figure became more upright. His tone was unusually calm, and he said, "Whether it's small tricks or big tricks, it has nothing to do with the competition at hand. And now, I just want to say, teacher, you have ruined the fairness of the competition. I respect you as a teacher, but you are now in the referee's seat, and your severe warning is creating unfairness, and you have lost your neutral position as a referee. As far as this competition is concerned, all I want is to win. It doesn't matter if it's a big or small trick. All I want is to be the champion. Even if it's a small trick, as long as it can help me win, it's a good trick. What does it have to do with big tricks? At least in this competition, no matter what tricks we use, they are our own tricks and we are fighting each other. Although I am only a student, I would like to raise a protest. I protest that the referee is unfair." Sui Xiaoduo's expression turned cold. His attitude had always been gentle and polite, and he was especially respectful to his teachers. He was polite and considerate, and there was no lack of etiquette. No one would have thought that at this moment, Sui Xiaoduo would burst out with such a lofty aura. He actually pointed out that the referee was unfair in front of everyone, and in front of the national live broadcast. He bluntly raised a protest. Whether it was the teachers or the audience, they were all shocked and indescribable. They asked themselves if they were in the same situation, what would they do? More than 99% of the people would only take advantage of the situation and continue to fight. They would not directly say anything and offend their teachers. However, Swordsmanship chose to say it directly, and he pointed it out directly, without any hesitation. I respect you as a teacher because I have always been full of admiration and respect for my teachers, but it is also because of this that I especially respect the profession of a teacher. Then you have done something unfair, and you have destroyed my respect for the profession of a teacher. How can I not say it? Swordsmanship even felt that he had said it too lightly. The white-bearded teacher's expression suddenly changed, and a cold look flashed in his eyes. He said in a low voice, but all your previous actions, aren't they creating unfairness? Swordsmanship said lightly, the so-called fairness varies from person to person, from time to time, and from place to place. What time is it now? What place is it now? Now it was time for the finals of the grand competition. Scheming and tricks have always been a part of one's strength, and I don't think it's unfair for me to be in the same team. After all, what I can do, others can do as well. How can this be unfair? Perhaps in your opinion my actions are biased and you define it as unfair. However, the rules of the competition do not explicitly state that participants are not allowed to speak to affect their opponents. However, it's clearly stated that your actions are a violation of the rules. Swordsmanship stood tall and straight, and his gaze did not flinch at all. He looked at the teacher and said loudly, so I am not wrong. That is, you are unfair. The whole world was shocked. The team leader of the Longhu list actually had the overall advantage in the finals, and when the champion was about to be in his hands, he directly pointed out that the referee was unfair. Ding Xiaolan and the others were also dissatisfied, but this dissatisfaction was not directed at Swordsmanship. Zhang Xiaofei laughed coldly. Gu Yuanhang, why did you interrupt the competition? Give me a reason? Cui Shangyan was also extremely dissatisfied. After so many competitions, this is the first time such a thing has happened. Brother Gu, I should say that you are impulsive. What else is there? Gu Yuanhang snorted coldly, and with a pale face he said coldly, I have a clear conscience. Ding Xiaolan's face was complicated. She wanted to say something, but in the end she did not say anything. She only looked at Swordsmanship with a little guilt. At this moment, a cold voice in the stand said, Gu Yuanhang, you have a clear conscience? How can you say that? If you did not have a death feud with my Kunlun Dao sect, would you do this? Gu Yuanhang shouted angrily, who? Me. The clouds in the air suddenly dispersed, and Mu Yinyan's graceful figure appeared in midair. Her expression was cold, and she said coldly, Gu Yuanhang, ask yourself honestly, is it true? Gu Yuanhang retorted angrily, no. Mu Yinyan was furious, no? Do you dare to swear to the great way of heaven? If it were not for Zhuoshaodua's starry steps, dragon gate kick, and star picking palm involving the Kunlun Dao sect, would you be reprimanded? Helping one and hurting the other? Why do you think that with your identity as a referee, Zhuoshaodua will be like an ordinary student, swallowing his anger and letting you do whatever you want? She had already formed a plan in her heart, detailed and long-term. With regards to Zhuoshaodua's future achievements, Ding Xiaolan had high hopes for him. She even thought that as long as Zhuoshaodua grew up, his future achievements might even be above the four great generals. Zhuoshaodua might even reach the level of the left and right heavenly kings. He was a legendary seed whose name had shocked the world for tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of years. Just like that, he was pushed away without a trace by a sudden sentence, and there was no possibility of recruiting him anymore. Ding Xiaolan only felt that her heart was broken into pieces. Cui Shangyan and Zhang Xiaofei stood up at the same time, their faces solemn. We all agree that Gu Yuanhang is no longer suitable to be a referee, and we request for his dismissal. The two of them had solemn expressions on their faces, but in their hearts, they were laughing like flowers. They were really overjoyed. What Ding Xiaolan was thinking now is exactly what they were thinking. In this way, how could Zhuo Duo go to Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts? That was absolutely impossible. And a genius like Zhuo Duo would definitely not go to an ordinary high martial arts. Excluding Ding Xiulan, who was his nemesis, and the Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts that she represented, Zhuo Duo only had two choices left: High Martial Arts or Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts. This Gu Yuanhang was truly a good person. He had directly eliminated Ding Xiulan, who had a higher chance of succeeding than the others. The two of them almost hugged each other and sang a song of friends. Yes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. At least at this moment, they were the closest friends and comrades in arms. The two of them even wanted to toast to Gu Yuanhang. Bro, you're too awesome this time. Facing Ding Xiulan, we really have no confidence. That woman looked like she was determined to win, and most importantly, she really did most of her work. She did it to the point that Zhuo Duo going to Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts was almost a foregone conclusion. But Gu Yuanhang's sudden shout made all of it disappear. Ha ha ha. Cui Shangyan and Zhang Xiaofei looked at each other and started to calculate their own advantages. This guy in front of us is nothing to worry about. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, but now that we don't have a common enemy, an enemy is just an enemy. Ding Xiulan's estimation of Zhuo Duo's future was very high, but Cui Shangyan and Zhang Xiaofei's estimation of Zhuo Duo's future was not too far off. Such a monstrous genius, what he lacked now was only space for growth. Once he reached the God reigning level, he would basically be unrivaled. The so-called legend today was already the beginning, and the future was just around the corner. The other two judges also expressed their opinions. After the discussion, the organizing committee decisively sent someone to invite Gu Yuanhang down. Here's an explanation. If I don't explain, I'm afraid that someone will lead the discussion. Reality is like this. In a major occasion, if someone important makes a mistake, as long as no one points it out on the spot, everyone will pretend to be deaf and wait for the internal department to deal with it. But once someone points it out on the spot, it will be a major incident, and the others can't pretend to be deaf and mute, then they will deal with it fairly. But if I don't explain, someone will lead the discussion and say something about the protagonist's halo. Gu Yuanhang's face was gloomy, and he glared fiercely at Zhuo Duo, snorted, and left. He actually didn't return to the hotel, but flew up into the sky and returned to Shangjing alone. At this moment, Gu Yuanhang didn't know, nor could he imagine, that his return journey was actually a trip to hell. The assassinations he encountered along the way were like locusts. Of course, this is all in the future, let's talk about it later. After Gu Yuanhang left, Ma Zhangxi, who was nearby, took his place and became the new judge. The finals continued. At this moment, Ding Xiulan, who was at the judge's seat, had a look of boredom on her face. What's the point of me watching this competition? She put down her phone. Just as they were discussing how to deal with Gu Yuanhang, Ding Xiulan had already sent a message to the principal of Ancestral Dragon High School. On the chat page there were more than 200 messages, including Zhuo Duo's life, understanding, talent, future plans, and so on, and everything, no matter how big or small, was reported first. There were as many as 56 pieces of information in the report. The remaining 200 or so comments were all scolding Gu Yuanhang. The last sentence was especially ruthless. If you don't deal with Gu Yuanhang and don't satisfy me, I will resign and become a teacher wherever Zhuo Duo goes to school. The principal of Ancestral Dragon High School, who was in a meeting, was dumbfounded. He watched as his phone vibrated on the desk. It vibrated all the way from the center of the desk to the other side, and then fell to the ground with a click. Then it buzzed all the way on the ground. It vibrated on the smooth floor for more than 10 meters before it stopped. Who offended this great aunt again? It's a message from teacher Ding Xiulan. The principal, by Mei Xian, moved and looked at the vice principal helplessly. The vice principal's expression changed, and his beard trembled. He held his stomach with his hand and said, "Principal, my stomach hurts. I think I ate something bad this morning." "What the hell, stomach hurts? You're in trouble." The principal rubbed his temples and looked like he had a headache. Ding Xiulan was the great-granddaughter of the first principal of Ancestral Dragon High School. She was also the only daughter of the current head of the martial arts department. She was also the daughter-in-law of the fourth principal. As the seventh principal, the current principal suddenly had the urge to resign. He didn't even want his phone anymore. He didn't want to see what the message was. If it was good news, it was impossible to send hundreds of messages in a row, right? It had to be reported face to face for the best effect. Since it wasn't good news, it could only be bad news, and it was super bad news. Judging from the mobile frequency, there should be at least 200 messages. The real intention of this action was to vent his anger that he couldn't control but had no place to vent at the moment. Let me see the phone. The principal rubbed his head and sighed. The impulse only lasted for a moment. As the principal, he had to do what he had to do. He had to face what he had to face. South G City. In the arena, the battle that was temporarily put on hold was restarted. Swishaoduo stood with his sword and said solemnly, "Captain Zhou, today's battle between you and me has nothing to do with what happened before. Please focus on the battle." Zhou Yunqing said indifferently, "Teacher Gu Yuanheng's warning did create unfairness. I admit it. It's an indisputable fact. However, in the end he still helped me. I will accept this favor." Swishaoduo said, "I hope it won't affect your state of mind. Focus on the battle." Zhou Yunqing smiled gently. "Same here. You were angry just now. I hope you won't affect your state of mind and focus on the battle." Swishaoduo sighed. "Old Zhou, you're such a gentleman. I don't want to trick you anymore. To be honest, I hate people like you the most in a battle. However, after the battle we can still be friends." Zhou Yunqing laughed heartily. "It's not bad to be friends. However, if you want to be friends with me, I'm afraid you have to be mentally prepared for my constant preaching." Swishaoduo was stunned. His face turned ugly as he said, "Then forget it." With Zhou Yunqing's personality and Swishaoduo's personality clashing, if they really wanted to be friends, it would be like Swishaoduo bringing along a homeroom teacher. Just thinking about it made him tremble. Chapter 359. Zhou Yunqing laughed heartily. "In order to show my respect for you, I will fight you fair and square. I will fight to my heart's content." Swishaoduo said solemnly, "This time, I will use my real trump card and fight you with all my strength." "Same to you." Zhou Yunqing smiled and said, "I have no complaints. Captain Zhou, please." Zhou Yunqing raised his long sword and a cold light shone. He was wearing a long white robe and stood straight. The tip of his sword was pointed downwards. This was the highest etiquette of swordsmanship, to make friends with the sword. Swishaoduo placed his long sword in front of his chest. His flat chest was facing the tip of his nose. He returned the etiquette. "This sword is like the heart." "Good." Zhou Yunqing let out a long cry. His white robe fluttered as he soared into the sky. He flew back 30 meters in the direction behind him. He held his long sword and stood in midair with a sincere look on his face. This was the sincerity of the heart, the sincerity of the sword, and the sincerity of the Tao. When the heart rises, thousands of soldiers will be cut. When the thought moves, thousands of souls will fly. When a man fights, his sword will not return. Zhou Yunqing chanted softly in the air. His whole person became as dazzling as the sword light and even more resolute. Then, his long sword turned into a stream of light and disappeared from the sky. When it reappeared, it had crossed 100 meters and was in front of Swishaoduo. His sword was in front and his body was behind. His gaze was as resolute and sharp as a sword. It was unstoppable. Behind him, a vague black hole appeared. "No return sword." Swishaoduo waved the long sword in his hand to his heart's content. Endless drizzle filled the space. Swishaoduo's figure disappeared in the dense curtain of rain. Swishaoduo's figure had disappeared into the dense curtain of rain. The drizzle was like a trace drifting in the air. Every drizzle was an extremely fine sword qi. Under the infinite intertwining, it was dense and endless. Because of this, Swishaoduo's body seemed to have completely disappeared. But at the same time, he was everywhere. Zhou Yunqing's dazzling sword light broke through the rain like a bolt of lightning. As it advanced, it once again flew up into the sky. With a turn that was almost invisible to the naked eye, its aura increased by 30%. The majestic sword chi immediately cut the air above the arena into pieces. Even from the perspective of the live broadcast, it could be seen clearly. A streak of white light descended rapidly and rushed into the rain and mist again. Although everyone could only see a patch of rain and fog, Zhou Yunqing's sword heart was clear at this moment. He could clearly sense Wuxiao's position. He had a clear target. At this moment, Zhou Yunqing's essence, qi, God, force and spirit had all become one. He had actually entered a strange state that he had never entered before. He had even forgotten about victory and defeat, forgotten about karma. His entire being was filled with a strange mood. He finally comprehended the true essence of the no-return sword. In his ears, there seemed to be thousands of comrades shouting, "Charge!" In his eyes, there seemed to be tens of thousands of people looking at him. Charge! He completely understood why there was no return after the sword was drawn. Because there was no return. Behind him were his comrades. Behind him was his home. Behind him were his parents. Behind him were his wife and children. Therefore, a man could not return. Therefore, there was no return after the sword was drawn. How could a man return if he did not wipe out all his enemies? An indescribable murderous aura suddenly erupted in the rain and fog. This murderous aura gave people the feeling that they had gone to a battlefield where thousands of horses and thousands of soldiers were charging and killing each other. That kind of desperation. That kind of heroism. A few high martial arts teachers stood up in shock. Ding Xiulan's eyes were full of shock. Zhou Yunqing has broken through. He actually broke through the third realm of the no-return sword in this kind of finals battle. Is this a coincidence? Is it inevitable? Or is it luck? The continuous rain and fog had already begun to disperse. However, following Wuxiao's long howl, there was suddenly another phenomenon in the rain and fog. There were additional raindrops. In the rain and fog, there were countless sparkles and translucent crystals. What followed was a scorching aura. Pieces of starlight flickered in the air. Slowly, the area within 100 meters was filled with sparkling starlight. Wuxiaoduo really went all out at this moment. He fully activated the Starry Sky Steps and the Drizzle Sword. He even added the incomplete Drizzle Sword. The original True Origin energy could no longer counteract Zhou Yunqing's desperate aura. Wuxiaoduo had no choice but to activate the Flaming Sun Sutra. It could be said that Wuxiaoduo had used all the trump cards that he had revealed so far to deal with Zhou Yunqing. However, Zhou Yunqing's sword aura was becoming more and more intense, more and more desperate, and more heroic. Even though Wuxiaoduo counterattacked with all his might, his eyes were unprecedentedly clear and steady, he still could not counter Zhou Yunqing. Water City First High School. Principal's office. A person who only had half of his body stood straight and upright like a sword. He would rather break than bend. It was the former principal of Water City First High School, the former general of the Southern Army, Gu Qianfan. Behind him there were 6 other teachers. They were all standing straight and staring at the screen. Water City First High School was different from other schools. No matter what they did, as long as they could still stand, they would not be in any other position. Therefore, when they were watching the competition, everyone stood and watched. Gu Qianfan quietly stared at the screen in front of him. On the screen it was the scene of Wuxiaoduo and Zhou Yunqing's battle. Gu Qianfan's eyes were sharp. He was gratified and emotional. Yunqing has broken through. A few teachers exclaimed in excitement. Gu Qianfan's eyes became sharper. A breakthrough. Yes, it was a good thing. However, the sword of no return was different from other sword techniques. It had to be sublimated in battle. This was a sword to kill the enemy. It was also a sword of no return. Breaking through at this time was not necessarily a good thing. At least, it was not a good thing for Zhou Yunqing. A breakthrough in sword intent required a suitable opponent to help train and complete the breakthrough. If the opponent was defeated before the breakthrough was completed, it meant that the breakthrough was incomplete. However, if the opponent was defeated by the opponent, the breakthrough was equivalent to a failure. Because, if the heart of the sword was broken, how could the sword realm continue? It was like crossing a bridge. One could cross the single plank bridge in one go, But the bridge broke halfway. What should one do? Gu Qianfan would call back all the students in this realm and choose a suitable teacher to fight with. Only when the breakthrough was completed could one completely stabilize the heart of the sword and truly break through. This was the most crucial step. It was also the most dangerous step on the path of an expert who practiced the no-return sword. It's okay. Gu Qianfan looked at the screen. That Wuxia Duo was indeed a genius. Although he was at a disadvantage, he was still not defeated and could even counterattack. This kind of counterattack in adversity stimulated Zhou Yunqing's sword intent even more, making it more intense, explosive, and heroic. Very good. Gu Qianfan's eyes were filled with emotion. Yunqing met a good opponent. This is a coincidence. If she can use this to complete her breakthrough, it will be much stronger and better than your sparring partner's breakthrough. A teacher said, "This Wuxia Duo has always been cunning and unscrupulous. Will he?" "Shut up," Gu Qianfan shouted. His gaze was unusually sharp. Now, as long as Wuxia Duo retreats, Yunqing's breakthrough will be interrupted. She will die prematurely and give up halfway. With Wuxia's swordsmanship attainments, do you think he doesn't understand this? If he insists on not retreating, he is helping Zhou Yunqing. In every battle before, Wuxia Duo chose the most correct way to fight. He maximized his advantages and targeted his opponent. However, he has never used this method to forcefully attack. Do you know why? This is already the most detailed evidence. Wuxia Duo is helping Yunqing's breakthrough. This is a huge favor. Our Shui city must remember this. Not only is he helping, he is also constantly sharpening and stimulating Yunqing's upper limit. This is something that all the teachers in our school can't do. This is because they will always hold back against Yunqing and make Yunqing feel that they are invincible. However, Wuxia Duo is different. The current situation is that Yunqing is suppressing Wuxia Duo. If Wuxia Duo retreated, he would naturally be able to defend himself. However, he did not retreat. He was betting his own safety on Yunqing's opportunity to break through. Only in this way, only such an opponent, a true opponent, can the no-return sword that belongs to Zhou Yunqing be activated. Only then will it be the true no-return sword. If it were you sparring with him, he wouldn't have been able to unleash such a killing intent, such a tragic and heroic aura. This is also the biggest flaw of our school students all these years. For Zhou Yunqing to be able to break through in this competition, it is his greatest fortune, because he met the right person. If he misses this opportunity, he will never have another one in his life. Gu Qianfan said heavily, "This child is very good. Very good. Can't you see it? Even if we don't talk about swordsmanship, with his cultivation of the Flaming Sun Sutra, he only needs to gather and activate it. With a single palm strike, he can easily interrupt Yunqing's breakthrough. However, he was still using his sword to fight, stimulate, and fulfill his wish. In this society, there is still such an opponent who is worth making friends with for the rest of his life and cherishing for the rest of his life." Gu Qianfan's words were not only seen by him, but also by the referees. Even if they didn't understand at first with their level, how could they not see it after observing for a period of time? Everyone was watching the battle carefully with wide eyes. They didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. Everyone was praying. They had even forgotten about the victory or defeat that they should be most concerned about. It was because the victory or defeat of this match, compared to the height that Zhou Yunqing could reach, was no longer important, insignificant. Wuxia Duo, you must hold on. You must hold on. Don't be jealous. You must continue to activate it. You are now activating an unprecedented genius in swordsmanship. You may even activate it to a height that even the creator of the no-return sword could not reach. Because the opponent was right. Just as Gu Qianfan said, Wuxia Duo did indeed see it. He also knew that Zhou Yunqing was experiencing a rare moment of enlightenment in swordsmanship. Chapter 360. Just as Gu Qianfan had said, if Zhou Yunqing made it through, he would be a brilliant and peerless genius. But if Wuxia Duo were to take a step back, he would forcefully interrupt this sword Dao comprehension. If he continued to fight, he would be able to trigger it. However, perhaps everyone had placed their attention on Zhou Yunqing and completely neglected the risk that Zhou Xiaoduo had to bear at this time. Zhou Xiaoduo was dancing on the tip of a knife. He was in mortal danger at every moment. It should be noted that Zhou Yunqing was currently in a state of epiphany in the sword Dao. The swordsmanship that he displayed was completely different from what he usually displayed. His combat strength had not only doubled, but he was also unconscious. In other words, the Zhou Yunqing that Zhou Xiaoduo was facing was a Zhou Yunqing whose strength had doubled, and who did not know how to show mercy. At this moment, even if Zhou Xiaoduo were to be crushed by his sword, he wouldn't know that the current him only had the word attack in his mind. His ferocious attacks were relentless and relentless. Zhou Xiaoduo not only did not retreat, but also counterattacked with all his strength to stimulate Zhou Yunqing's sword essence. If he did not have enough strength, he would use the flaming sun scripture to make up for it. Since you met me by chance at this moment, I will give you a hand and send you to the top. Drizzle sword, 5-direction sword. Zhou Xiaoduo used more than 10 different swordsmanship in the process of fighting. They rolled out, and the magnificent sword light covered the entire arena. As the battle dragged on, Zhou Xiaoduo's swordsmanship gradually became more and more proficient, even though it was meant to help Zhou Yunqing to the greatest extent. His swordsmanship was refined to the point where it flowed freely. He even refined his sword heart and sword qi, making them extremely sharp, battle intent and murderous intent extremely pure. Water City First High School. Gu Qianfan saw Zhou Yunqing's dragon-like sword qi gradually take on a lofty appearance. The fierce and heroic sword qi almost soared into the sky and swallowed the rivers and mountains. Finally, he clapped his hands. Good. It's done. It's finally done. At this point, the epiphany this time had already reached a perfect stage. However, Zhou Yunqing was still in that chaotic state of epiphany. The sword qi of his longsword was still circulating like a giant dragon in the sea of clouds. His might was increasing rapidly. After reaching this step, the depth of your foundation has already surpassed mine in the past. It has surpassed mine by more than a single level. Gu Qianfan's eyes lit up. Not bad, not bad. You must remember to thank Zhou Xiaoduo properly in the future. This is a huge favor. Everyone nodded in unison. Gu Qianfan took a deep breath and said, so far, it has reached the consummate realm without any flaws. However, if I could go one step further, if I could stimulate the murderous aura of the no-return sword, it would be a higher level, a dreamlike achievement. But, it's really... Just as he said this, his eyes suddenly widened in disbelief. In his eyes, besides disbelief, there was also uncontrollable ecstasy. He cried out involuntarily this. How could he do this? This is equivalent to using his own life as a bet to help Yunqing. How can we thank him for such a high friendship? I can't feel it anymore, no more. Gu Qianfan, the old principal, was so excited that his eyes were red and brimming with tears. Because, on the screen, Zhou Xiaoduo, who had been attacking, changed his sword technique again. The originally sharp attack surged again like the Yangtze River counterattack. That fierce murderous aura, wave after wave of continuous attacks, almost passed through the screen and shone on everyone's faces. The murderous aura was dense, and the sword qi was awe-inspiring. The waves rolled up thousands of miles of snow, and the tide hit thousands of feet of ice. Zhou Yunqing's sword qi, which had gradually calmed down, was stimulated by the sword qi and murderous aura. It instinctively became violent, and the instinctive murderous aura was awe-inspiring. It fiercely counterattacked and counterattacked. No matter if it was Water City First High School or the referee on the stage, all of them were watching intently at this moment, holding their breaths and paying full attention. Now that the qi had changed to this point, this battle was no longer a battle of victory or defeat. It had evolved into a battle of life and death. As long as there was a moment of carelessness, life and death would be decided. There would be no more luck, and no one would be able to save him in time. Zhou Yunqing was still completely unconscious. His body and mind were immersed in the instinctive epiphany of breaking through the realm. There was only carefree feeling, no victory or defeat, life or death, and no cause or effect. Now the only one bearing all the pressure was Zhou Xiaoduo. All the pressure was on Zhuoxiaoduo's shoulders. Zhuoxiaoduo's body and mind were under pressure, and the pressure was multiplied. He was already sweating, but he still did not relax. People like Zhou Yunqing could be said to be very rare in today's society, and there was no one like him. Since you met me by chance and since you had such an opportunity in the battle with me, then I will send you to the top. And as high as I can send you, I will send you as high as I can. In the future there should not be a single outstanding person, but a group of heroes and a gathering of stars. Zhou Yunqing, I hope you will be even more brilliant. In Zhuoxiaoduo's hands the cat spirit sword turned into a rain curtain, into a gale, into a blizzard, into a star. With a mercury-like attack, with a bone-chilling murderous aura, he stimulated Zhou Yunqing's no-return sword. The pressure was increasing. The current Zhou Yunqing, compared to the Zhou Yunqing who had just started the battle, was more than 10 times stronger. If the current Zhou Yunqing were to fight with Lan Bingrui, who was fighting with Zhuoxiaoduo previously, he would be able to kill her in one strike. It would be a clean cut and there would be no luck. As the murderous aura grew thicker and thicker, the collision of their moves became more and more dangerous. Gradually, it climbed to the point where blood and qi were faintly visible. Enough! Now, it has greatly exceeded my expectations, and it has far exceeded my expectations. Gu Qianfan's straight body showed a rare sign of trembling, and he was filled with emotion. No return sword had finally reached a higher level today, and it was even a huge leap, an extreme leap. Zhou Yunqing would definitely surpass him, and even become the number one in the no-return sword. It would reach a level that no one had ever reached before. You can stop now. It has reached the limit, and it has exceeded the limit of my knowledge. Gu Qianfan muttered to himself, and he did not dare to blink. It was as if their hearts were connected. It was also at this time that Zhuoxiaoduo let out a long howl. The spirit cat sword was brandished rapidly. In the blink of an eye, 999 slashes were unleashed like a torrential rain. After he made his move, his whole body bloomed with a glaring fire, like a small sun, and emitted a rolling heat wave. It rushed to the sky, and it was like a fire essence in the sky, covering the sky. In one breath, it rushed to a height of 200 meters, and it was still rising. It was obvious that he intended to leave the battle area and end this dangerous battle. Then a voice came from afar, Teacher Ding, Teacher Ma, it's done. Please help guide Zhou Yunqing to regain his qi, and everything will be fine. Needless to say, the 6 referees had already jumped out at the same time. Each of them made a move and restrained Zhou Yunqing, who was still waving his sword in the air. They all moved slowly, and gradually guided Zhou Yunqing back to the stage, until the end. Ding Xiulan used a move that almost did not have any energy fluctuation, and removed the last bit of Zhou Yunqing's strength. Zhou Yunqing finally stood on the stage again, and his feet touched the ground again. However, his footing was not stable and he was shaking. He was sweating profusely, but his consciousness had finally retreated from that mysterious state. He weakly opened his eyes and muttered, Zhuoxiaoduo, thank you. Before his voice died away, his whole body fell to the ground, and he completely fell into a coma. After a moment, Zhuoxiaoduo's body floated down from the sky like a feather. Once he landed, the sweat that had already flowed all over his body suddenly flowed to the ground, and in the blink of an eye, a large puddle of sweat was soaked. He still smiled happily and said, it was really satisfying, but this battle was really tiring. Ding Xiulan, you ran to the sky to change your clothes? Zhuoxiaoduo was now wearing another set of blue clothes, and it was not his original school uniform. Zhuoxiaoduo cried, I must make Zhou Yunqing compensate me for my clothes. My pitiful clothes, they represent our Phoenix City's second high school's uniform, a symbol of honor. They accompanied me through the entire Dragon Tiger list, and were about to be glorified, but in this final battle, they were cut into noodles by this bastard. As he spoke, he shook out his previous uniform. When everyone saw this, they could not help but laugh. They only saw the clothes fluttering in the wind, from the collar to the pants, in a mess. With a casual shake, it was like a flower blooming, and there was really no way to look at it. No problem, no problem. Zhang Xiaofei laughed loudly. Even if that little bastard Zhou Yunqing is shameless and refuses to accompany you, I, as your teacher, will compensate you. Cui Shangyan also laughed loudly, and also joined in the fun. Not bad, not bad, I will also compensate you. I will definitely let you, the captain of Phoenix City's second high school, be full of glory and shine for all eternity. Ding Xiulan was just about to speak, but a wave of sadness surged in her heart, and she almost could not speak. After a pause she said, I will compensate you with 10 pieces. Xiao Duo, good boy. This battle could be said to have caused the hearts of all the high school teachers to burn with passion. Everyone was a profound cultivator, and they were all people with clear minds. Who could not see that this battle had long surpassed a simple battle of victory and defeat? This was directly a battle where Zhou Xiaoduo, knowing full well that he was gambling with his life to help Zhou Yunqing transform his swordsmanship. Previously, when they saw Zhou Xiaoduo leading the team, they naturally saw that he had the ability to lead, treated people well, and had a glib tongue. He respected his teacher, was smart and honest, practiced hard, had a deep foundation, and used countless methods and schemes to play all his opponents in the palm of his hand. It was already confirmed that once he grew up, he would definitely be a person who could turn the clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. What's more, he was a genius who could develop in all aspects. Who would not want such a talented candidate? But through this battle, everyone saw another side of him. His breadth of mind. What kind of breadth of mind was this to be able to help his opponent in the finals? Not only did this require sparing no effort, there was no jealousy in his heart, and he had the breadth of mind to risk his life to create another future legend. This kind of student was simply a treasure. At this moment, the person who felt the most uncomfortable in her heart was Ding Xiulan. She was so uncomfortable that she even had the heart to die. I am so angry that I am going crazy. If I ask for a monthly vote, I will write a chapter and curse in the streets. Chapter 361. Ding Xiulan felt as if her heart was being fried in a pot of oil. She had gone crazy. She had completely lost control of her emotions. I was clearly very close to success, but Gu Yuanheng's words directly ruined the great situation. Now she was so angry that her intestines were swollen. Thinking of this, the anger in her heart accumulated again. She couldn't help but take out her phone and send another message. Her fingers turned into an illusion. She gritted her teeth and sent 200 to 300 messages. Ding Xiulan was really going crazy this time. She wanted to kill Gu Yuanheng with her own hands. At this moment, Zhang Xiaofei's phone suddenly rang. When he took it out to take a look, his face couldn't help but turn solemn. He couldn't help but stand up straight and answer the call. He said respectfully, Principal Gu, why did you call personally? When everyone heard that it was Principal Gu who called, they were all solemn and listened respectfully. Although the continent was big and there were many schools, but there was only one Principal Gu. The old principal of Shui City No. 1 High School, Gu Qianfan, was the No. 1 general of the Southern Army back then. Among the millions of soldiers at Sun Moon Pass, on the vast battlefield of tens of thousands of miles, the brightest and sharpest sword light. When attacking a city, the person who would always rush to the front was always that person. With Gu Qianfan's qualifications, he was even qualified to be the principal of a first-rate martial arts academy. Back then, Shang Jing had even asked Gu Qianfan to be a royal consecrator. In fact, Gu Qianfan's contributions were too great. He wanted to give this old general, who had fought his entire life but was unfortunately disabled, an environment of prosperity and wealth. However, Gu Qianfan directly refused. I, Gu Qianfan, have lost an arm and a leg. Am I a cripple? This battlefield can't be without the sword of no return. This time I'll go back with one sword. As long as you give me time, I'll give this battlefield countless swords of no return. He insisted on returning to Shui City, and became the principal of a low-level martial arts school. He began to nurture talents from the foundation. From then on, Shui City No. 1 High School was like a sharp sword. In the martial arts school where heroes rose together, he directly killed a path. Enter my school gate, be a dignified person, Look up with a clear conscience, sword out with no return. The 1,000-mile sword of beacon and smoke is buried deep. The broken blade will never fade. Don't be a guest of the imperial city. Bow down to nurture talents. Such a person was worthy of anyone's respect. Turn on the speaker. Gu Qianfan's voice sounded. Zhang Xiaofei hurriedly opened it. Gu Qianfan's voice came out clearly from the phone. His voice was very heavy, but it inexplicably gave people a feeling of the hissing of sword intent. Just by listening to him speak, it was as if he could see a sword being unsheathed from its scabbard. The sharpness of the sword was overwhelming. I'm Gu Qianfan, the principal of Shuicheng First High School. In this competition, on behalf of Shuicheng No. 1 Middle School, I officially admit defeat. He paused, then continued, also Zhuo Duo, thank you so much. I Gu Qianfan owe you one. Gu Qianfan had intended to say more, but in such a public place, it was obviously not appropriate to speak anymore. If he spoke again, it would have the opposite effect and it would be like flattery. Therefore, he simply said, thank you. Thank you, Phoenix City's second high school. Many thanks, the champion of this year's Dragon and Tiger ranking. Phoenix City's second high is fully deserving of the title. I salute the old principal, He Yuanyue. On behalf of Shuicheng No. 1 Middle School, I say I am sincerely convinced. Then the call was hung up. The whole place was silent for a long time. Gu Qianfan. Don't return sword, Gu Qianfan. He said with his own mouth, I, Gu Qianfan, owe you one. This was during a national live broadcast. This favor was a big one. In fact, most of the people watching the live broadcast still did not understand what Zhuo Duo had done. In the previous match, it seemed that Zhuo Duo had given up first, and it was a group of referees who had restrained Zhou Yunqing. In terms of the situation, it was clear that Zhou Yunqing had the upper hand. Why did the situation suddenly change, and the old principal of Shuicheng No. 1 Middle School had to personally admit defeat? Even the old principal, Gu Qianfan, said that he owed him a favor? There were many people watching the live broadcast. But when it came to the people who really knew, there was not even 1% or even 1 in 1,000. As for the people who could see all the mysteries of this battle, perhaps it could be described as 1 in 10 million. As a result, many irrelevant people on the internet madly said, shady. Shuicheng No. 1 Middle School and Phoenix City's second high school must have reached some kind of agreement in private. The principal of Shuicheng No. 1 Middle School is saying the opposite. He admitted defeat and gave up the championship, but the one who really owes him a favor is Phoenix City's second high school. Please give us back the truth. We have the right to know the inside story. We have the right to ask for a fair stage. A fair society. Oh, principal, someone is talking about shady dealings. A teacher from Shuicheng No. 1 Middle School carefully looked at the comments on the internet and reported in a low voice. I just admitted defeat. And there's an inside story? This is how the world is. It's always people who don't know the truth who are filled with righteous indignation. Gu Qianfan was in a good mood and said, if there really is an inside story, why would I need to personally lose this old face? But the netizens won't think so. The teacher whispered, do you want to clarify and explain? Gu Qianfan said indifferently, why should I, Gu Qianfan, explain my actions to others? He sneered and said, there's no need to pay attention to it. Pass down the order, all the intersections of the city, the entire school, from today onwards, wear red decorations, wait for Yunqing and the others to return, and then choose a school. Gu Qianfan smiled, looked at the phone on the table that kept vibrating and laughed coldly. They're all calls from the principals of the various high martial arts schools. Cough cough. The secretary took a look. They want to accept Zhou Yunqing. Among them, the principal's office of the Ancestral Dragon High School has already been called 3 times. What do you think? Ancestral Dragon High School? Gu Qianfan frowned, his face solemn. Zhou Yunqing, you can't enter the Ancestral Dragon in this life. This, I'll call back personally later. Gu Qianfan let out a long sigh. Yes, but the other high martial arts schools were all personally called by the principal. Ignore them. Gu Qianfan rolled his eyes. Now you think of me. What were you doing earlier? Keep the news a secret. Don't pick up the phone. If you want my students. It depends on my mood. Spread the word that I, Gu Qianfan, am very interested in knowing which city has the best wine in all the high martial arts schools in the country. I want to have a taste or two. Yes, just like that? Immediately. Gu Qianfan sneered. See if I can't beat these old bastards to death. Victory and defeat were decided. The finals ended. The champion of the new Longhu ranking had fallen to Phoenix City's second high school. Even many years later, there were still countless people who remembered the scene today. Amidst the fluttering flowers and fluttering ribbons, 6 youths dressed in Phoenix City's second high school's uniform stood on the high platform with tears in their eyes. They raised their championship trophies and suddenly shouted at the sky in unison. Did you see that? Our Phoenix City's second high school. We're the champions. Did you hear that? Our Phoenix City's second high school is the champion of this year's Longhu ranking. Your wish, we've achieved it. We've succeeded. Our Phoenix City's second high school is first in the Longhu ranking competition. Old principal. The 6 youths held the trophy on the high platform with tears falling like rain. We've won first place. We're first. Below the stage, Hu Ruoyan and Luo Lai also had mixed feelings. Hu Ruoyan's face was full of tears. Luo Lai's eyes were red. First place. First place. However, the person who had worked hard and sacrificed his entire life to see Phoenix City's second high school obtain this honor was no longer here. Standing on the stage, Zhou Xiaoduo used the aura divination technique. He could clearly see that he, Li Chenglong, and the others were completely enveloped by the enormous power of providence at this moment. Not to mention himself, because the aura divination technique could not see his own providence. However, among Li Chenglong and the others he could see it. The foundation of Li Chenglong and the others' providence had almost doubled. Among all the students present, only 2 or 3 could compare to Li Chenglong and the others. He was finally relieved. With this kind of providence, no matter which high school they went to, they would be outstanding. Providence was illusory. It could not be seen or touched, but it could be clearly felt. For example, some people had endless bad luck. Everything they did was not going well. Things that were about to succeed would be inexplicably destroyed. Some people, on the other hand, did everything smoothly. Things that could not be done in the first place would be inexplicably done. This was the power of providence. Perhaps most people did not understand, but most people with a little experience would be able to understand this paragraph. The providence of Li Chenglong and the others had already surpassed that of ordinary people by 1,000 times. What are your plans? Ding Xiulan asked Hu Ruoyun and the others amidst the cheers and clamor. We want to go home immediately. Zhou Xiaoduo represented everyone and said, we don't want to stay here for a moment longer. Why? Because we want to send the first place trophy to Grandma He as soon as possible. Tell her that the first place belongs to our second high school. And after the award ceremony, Phoenix City's second high school did not return to the hotel. Instead, they directly embarked on the journey home. They were so impatient. Glory, we got it. The first place of the Longhu list is ours. From next year onwards, the children from our school will be able to enjoy the supreme treatment. We did not let you down. Today is September 5th. We got the first place. We want this trophy, this glory, to be delivered to you before midnight of the 6th of September. Because today we will be the emperor after the Central Plains. They did not say goodbye to anyone, nor did they have the time to accept the congratulations of the other teams. They stepped on the journey home without hesitation. Zhang Xiaofei and Cui Shangfeng said, let us send you off. With your speed you might not be able to make it. The 4 high martial arts teachers all used their cultivation level to bring everyone along as they sped along. They did not hesitate to use up a lot of their vital essence. Zhou Xiaoduo really wanted to say, actually, it might be more efficient if you send us a plane, but after thinking about it, he did not say it. The true intention of the other party was to use this opportunity to get closer to each other. If there was any objection, it would be rejecting their goodwill. Ding Xiulan looked at the leaving crowd. Her eyes were filled with disappointment and anger. He was disappointed because Zhou Xiaoduo had failed to recruit him, But he was angry because of Gu Yuanhang. If it were not for this bastard, Zhuxiao Duo would most likely enter the Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts School. At least, among the people who sent them back this time, there should be a part of her. It was all Gu Yuanhang's fault. She grabbed her phone and looked. The principal did not reply. Old bastard, you dare to play dead with me. Ding Xiulan, who had nowhere to vent her anger, directly found a number and dialed it. It was the secretary who answered. Ding. Director Ding, the principal said he had diarrhea. He went home to rest first. If there's anything, we can talk about it when you come back. There's no need to rush. Fuck. Ding Xiulan lost her composure and spat out. Then she threw her phone with a bang. Screw him to death. After a long time, Ding Xiulan sighed softly and muttered softly to herself. You will never know what the Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts School lost this time. There has never been a Longhu list where so many geniuses emerged. But this time there was a spurt of geniuses. This is the sign of a prosperous era, the sign of a rise. In such a spurt of geniuses, the Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts School actually did not get a share. You can't imagine how big of a loss it is. In one sentence, 12 geniuses were forced to retreat at the same time. Just because of the heart of a villain. The Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts School will be suppressed in the future. It's almost a foregone conclusion. Ding Xiulan muttered to herself in disappointment. She knew very well in her heart. Ever since Zhuxiao Duo retaliated after Gu Yuanhang spoke, the Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts School had forever lost the chance to recruit each and every one of the 6 people in Zhuxiao Duo's team. Yes, each and every one of them. These 6 people were the children of destiny who rode on the wind and carried the luck. And ever since Zhuxiao Duo helped Zhou Yunqing and Gu Qianfan spoke on the phone, the Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts School had also lost the hope of recruiting Zhou Yunqing. Because Gu Qianfan, that peerless sword, would never allow his students to go to Ancestral Dragon High School, because there was a villain in Ancestral Dragon High School. Moreover, this villain had taught his students before. Perhaps ordinary people would not realize this point, but how could someone like Gu Qianfan not see this key point? Now that Zhou Yunqing had entered the Ancestral Dragon, Gu Yuanhang would definitely be able to get in touch with him. With Zhou Yunqing's gentlemanly personality, he would definitely accept Gu Yuanhang's kindness and interact with him for a long time. It would be easy for an old fox like Gu Yuanhang to influence Zhou Yunqing. The deeper his friendship with Gu Yuanhang, the more uncomfortable Zhou Yunqing would feel when facing Zhuxiao Duo in the future. Because there was a feeling of being ungrateful. How could 2 geniuses of the current generation not clash? In the long run, Zhou Yunqing's sword heart would definitely be covered in dust. And once his sword heart was covered in dust, Zhou Yunqing would be crippled. Gu Qianfan would never allow this to happen. Therefore, Ancestral Dragon Gaowu was destined to gain nothing in this Longhu ranking. As one of the top 3 martial arts schools, what would happen if they couldn't recruit the best talents? This was what made Ding Xiulan the angriest. The reputation of 1,000 years was ruined by the words of a villain. This sentence might seem too much to say now, but Ding Xiulan already had a premonition in her heart. Geniuses would not erupt every year. How many years would it take for the luck of the continent to be born like this? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.